Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Gina. How we doing? So Trump just posted on True Social. The fake news media has lost total credibility. Not that they had any to begin with, because their massive Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDSI. They love saying that Iran is winning when in fact everyone knows they are losing and losing big. Their Navy is gone, the Air Force is gone, the anti aircraft apparatus is non existent. Radar is dead. Their missiles and drone factories have been largely obliterated, along with missiles and drones themselves. And most importantly, their longtime leaders are no longer with us. Praise be to Allah. The only thing they have going is the threat to sink ships into one of their sea mines, which, by the way, all 28 of their mine dropper boats are also lying at the bottom of the sea. We're now starting the process of clearing out the Strait of Hormuz as a favor to countries all over the world, including China, Japan, South Korea, France, Germany, and many others. Incredibly, they don't have the courage or will to do this work themselves. Very interestingly, however, empty oil carrier ships from many nations are all heading to the United States of America to load up with oil. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So, we have reports coming out of Israel from a news source in Israel that Iran did not accept the deal, which that nobody else has reported on it yet. So only time will tell. But look, nobody wants to see World War III. I think that they stalled, and a lot of other people think that Iran just stalled. Now China is supposedly sending weaponry over there. So let's watch old David Hookstead, what he's got to say. This doesn't, no, it's not going to end well. They should have never, ever took their foot off the gas. Once you lose the element of surprise, it's over. And we all know that, right? Why he stopped even trying to negotiate. You can't negotiate with terrorists. In my opinion, he didn't do nothing but endanger everybody even more. He should have went ahead and eradicated them. And I hate to say that because I don't want to see the extermination of anybody. But he should have went ahead and did what he had to do. And quite frankly, he didn't. Which we shouldn't be there to start with. But once you start a war, you don't let them go home and get their big brother. You know what I'm saying? You go ahead and handle it right there. No, you can't deal with them.
Because minds are, and we have more or not those negotiations have officially started yet.
Oh, they started.
Plus, we've got
they started around
updates.
midnight.
We've got comments from President Trump, so we got a lot. Before we get into it, you guys know the deal. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Get active in the comments. Notification bell on. You won't miss a thing. And then Instagram, David_Hookstead, XD Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. DMs are wide open. Now, let's get into it. So I'm going to put this up on the screen right away. This comes from Bloomberg. It says U.S. intelligence indicates that China is preparing to provide Iran with air defense systems in a matter of weeks.
And see, China right now is in an all-out scramble because their economy is collapsing behind this, which I get what he did, right? Trump, when I said this 2 weeks ago, that when Trump took over Venezuela and started bombing Iran, it stopped all the oil flow to China. So once you do that, so now you done kick the hornet's nest and you ain't even run away. You just fucking standing there waiting on them to sting you all in the face. The shit don't make no sense. Once you start a war, you fucking go all out. You don't just back up and let them catch their breath. This could end real badly for us.
Including surface-to-air missiles and man-pads. What is a man-pad? A man-pad is a shoulder-fired, heat-seeking missile that can shoot down helicopters, planes. It is not the most advanced air system in the world, but it is certainly deadly. That is how they shot down our F-15. It is believed they used a man pad. It locks on, unlike traditional, the big, like an S-400, S-300, S-500, things like the Buk, things like that, which can be easily picked up from the air. You blow them up ahead of time. They're no concern. You can hide a man pad in a house. You hear planes coming by, you pop out, fire that missile once it locks on, and it can have devastating damage. So China, while not sending troops, which was never expected, it was expected that they would send a variety of different weapons. And now during the ceasefire period, they have the ability to rush missiles into Iran to arm them in the event of a U.S. invasion. And they're not alone in this. Russia had a bunch of humanitarian flights that flew in during the war, allegedly carrying food and medicine.
And you can't blame Russia either, right? Because we helped Ukraine during the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So there's a hornet's nest going on, and the average person don't realize it.
Then all of a sudden, one of our F-15s gets blasted out of the sky. Fortunately, both crew members were rescued and are alive. Minor injuries, but they're going to make full recoveries. What do you really think was on those Russian planes? I would bet you anything I have that there were weapons, air defense weapons, man pads. Now China doing the exact same, rushing weapons into Iran.
Oh, shit. There they was. It was rushing them in.
Now, some updates here with the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. officials saying that Iran cannot open the Strait of Hormuz because they do not know where the mines they placed have gone. They threw a bunch of mines in the Strait of Hormuz.
Exactly
they're alleging, the Iranians are claiming they do not
Which
know.
is bullshit, because I went back and watched the Marine tracker, and you could clearly see them escorting the other day. They were escorting boats out of the strait. They know exactly where their mines are at.
Where they are, and thus cannot guarantee safe passage. Sounds like a major problem for the Iranians. They mine the strait. It's their responsibility to figure out a way to fix it, get those mines out there so that international shipping can reopen. To me, this sounds like nothing more than an excuse. They know where those mines are. They simply don't want to remove them. They want an excuse to say, well, we want to open up the Strait of Hormuz, but we simply can't because we don't know where all the mines are. And we have more information here from the New York Times. I'll read it to you. It said Iran has been unable to open the Strait of Hormuz to more shipping traffic because it cannot locate all the mines it laid in the waterway and lacks the capability to remove them. Again, sounds like their problem, not ours. The development is one reason Iran has not been able to quickly comply with the Trump administration's admonitions to let more traffic pass through the strait. It also potentially a complicating factor as Iran negotiators and a U.S. delegation led by Vice President J.D. Vance meet in Pakistan this weekend. Iran used small boats to mine the strait last month, soon after the United States and Israel began their war against the country. So the Iranians are saying, hey, we mine the strait. We don't know where their mines are. There's nothing we can do about it. Too bad. But on this note, we did have 3 oil tankers that did cross through the Strait of Hormuz over the past 24 hours. But guess what? 2 of them are from China. Now, we've talked about this at length. Clearly, this mine excuse doesn't make any sense because how'd these oil tankers get through? Well, they were led through by the Iranians. They paid the tolls, most likely. And who are they letting through? They're letting through 2 Chinese tanks, 1 Greek tank. If you pay them the money they want, they'll open it right up. You can move right through the Strait of Hormuz. So this is a lie from the Iranians. It is a stall tactic. It is a negotiating leverage tactic. Do not fall for it. Do not believe it. Now, Shin reporting last night, we do not have confirmation from the Kuwaitis, but there are reports that there was a missile launched from Iran that struck somewhere in Kuwait near the Abdullah Port Refinery. Again, we do not have independent confirmation of this. This is coming from Shin. There's a report of an attack. Shin is a very, very credible source. A lot of great information from the ground level. And that is certainly something to take into account is the shooting during the ceasefire hasn't really stopped. It's just gone more clandestine, covert, people not taking responsibility for it. We saw the same thing in Qatar. We saw the same thing in Saudi Arabia, Iraq. We've seen significant combat. So the attacks, quite frankly, aren't stopping. Now, President Trump with a variety of comments. Let's watch what he had to say.
What's up, JDJ?
Trump was just asked, what does a good deal look like, in case you couldn't hear?
No nuclear weapon, number one. You know, I think it's already been regime change, but we never had that as a criteria. No nuclear weapon. That's 99% of it. Yeah, but that'll open up automatically. The answer is yes, but the Strait will open up. If we just left, the Strait's going to, otherwise they make no money. So the Strait's going to open. But what we have is no nuclear weapon, but we'll open the Strait anyway. Don't forget, we don't use the Strait. Other countries use the Strait. So we do have other countries coming up, and they'll help out, but we don't use it. It won't be easy. It won't be. I would say this: we will have that open fairly soon.
So President Trump claiming the Strait of Hormuz will be open fairly soon, and then here he was asked about Iran charging tolls, forcing ships to pay millions of dollars. Let's watch.
You're not going to let them toll the Strait, are you? It's international.
No, we're not going to let that. It's international water. If they're doing that, nobody knows if they're doing that. But if they're doing that, we're not going to let that happen.
So Trump saying they will not allow tolls in the Strait of Hormuz. This comes from CNN's Caitlin Collins. Says in response to reports that the
Trump is the one that planted that seed. I can't. Sometimes this motherfucker just needs to shut up, man. I swear.
U.S. has agreed to release Iran's frozen assets held in Qatar and other foreign banks. A senior U.S. official tells pool reporters, false. The meetings haven't even started yet. Now, on that note, Jennifer, the meetings being the negotiations in Pakistan. On that note, Jennifer Jacobs reported the Iran discussions that VP.
So I know that Iran wouldn't even talk to J.D. Vance face to face. They wanted to go through the Pakistani leaders. They wouldn't even have a face to face with him. So now I don't know how far they made it in their talks as of yet, because there ain't any information out except for the one news station out of Israel saying that there was no deal reached. They wouldn't come to an agreement.
Vance is here for in Islamabad have begun. So we have two reports they've begun. However, Jacqueline Almany of I believe MSN and MSNBC said two members of the Iranian delegation tell MSN Now News talks will not start until a ceasefire is agreed in Lebanon. As of now, we haven't met with U.S. officials in Islamabad, but we have had extensive conversations with our Pakistani brothers and host and have relayed our position. So there are disputing narratives over whether or not negotiations have officially started yet or not as of me filming this. Now, we got some major news about the fate of the new supreme leader. So this comes from Reuters saying Iran's new supreme leader has severe and disfiguring wounds. It says Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khomeini, is still recovering from severe facial and leg injuries suffered in airstrikes that killed his father at the beginning of the war. 3 people close to the inner circle told Reuters Khomeini's face was disfigured in the attack on the supreme leader's compound in central Tehran, and he suffered a significant injury to one or both legs. So Reuters reporting that his face has been destroyed, completely disfigured, one or
Bro, that bitch's face was destroyed at birth. What the fuck are you talking about? Anything is an improvement in the way that ugly motherfucker look.
Both of his legs blown off and disfigured. So he is alive, but he is in real bad shape. And this is why the IRGC, there's also reports he's in a coma. This is why the IRGC is able to be in control. They are able to be in control, run the show, do whatever they want. They are the most extreme, the most hard line. So we replaced the Ayatollah, who's a terrible.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, the way that the infighting is going over there, no matter if they come to a deal or not, they can't honor it. They're never going to be able to honor it because one group wants to be the ones negotiating, the other group wants everybody to be the ones negotiating. So, in my opinion, they're not going to be able to honor anything that they come to the table with anyway. All they're doing is stalling to get reinforcements over there. That's all they're doing.
Terrible
person. What's up, Tex?
With people who are even worse than him. We got to tell the truth about this. That is not a strategic victory. That is a major problem that we're now going to have to figure out. Now, new footage has been released, never before seen footage showing the Qatar's Roslafen natural gas production hub when it was hit directly by an Iranian ballistic missile. You can see it right there. Significant damage. This was in the early days of the war. This footage has never been seen by the public, and you can see it right there getting absolutely smashed by an Iranian ballistic missile. This is photos of the U.S.-made AN/FPS-132 Block 5 ballistic missile early warning radar in Qatar. You can see burn marks. So this is a early warning system that tells you when missiles are coming in, lets you know that you're about to be bombed, gives you time to get air defenses up. You can see damage here on your screen. So it took some direct hits, although the damage doesn't look that terrible. Now, this is very interesting.
What's up?
Remember, we blew up a couple C-130s on operation to rescue the F-15 weapons officer. Now, the Iranians are claiming they have recovered from that wreckage an AN/AQ-24 Lycrim system developed by Northrop Grumman. It is a laser-based infrastructure countermeasure designed to protect large aircraft. Forces off the C-130. So that is not good. Certainly, they will send it to Russia and China to be reverse engineered. And then right here, also news, the Iranians have started rebuilding the bridges. You can see right here, they are rebuilding the bridges the United States blew up before the ceasefire started. So as of me filming this on April 11th, we've got the Chinese rushing in missiles to Iran to stop a potential ground invasion if the war sparks back up. We have the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians say they cannot open it. They will not open it because of the mines. I do not believe that. I think that is an excuse that they have cooked up. And we have J.D. Vance in Pakistan for negotiations with the Iranians. We don't really know what's going to happen, where it's going to go. We will continue to follow the situation. So that is the update as of the morning of April 11th. As always, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again when we have more updates.
Your business is crushing it, but unless they've got...
So it's a dire situation regardless. And I wonder if we won't be back to war comes Sunday. Let me pull up Matt Morris. I'm sure he's live. No. Let's see what his last broadcast was.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name is Matt Morris.
Damn, that son of a bitch got bad head, bro.
We are live right now on YouTube, Rumble, as well as on Twitch at Matt Morris TV. Ladies and gentlemen, boy, howdy, do we have one hell
it's on now, Texas.
of a show today. Ladies and gentlemen,
that was one
just
of them.
Moments ago, we got the confirmation. President Trump has just played. He has played the Iranian regime like a fiddle. As you see, as it would turn out, President Trump has actually had a...
I actually built that thing for my son and then caught him out there driving it like he was fucking Mario Andretti, and he drives more like, well, let's just say he's not the best driver in the world. My brother was like, you better get rid of that motherfucker. You're going to kill that kid. So...
master plan this entire time, and guess what? This master plan
then I bought him
has
a Jeep and he
everything
took
to
it down
do
there and
with
spanked
the current
so I sold
ceasefire with the Iranian regime. We are going to break it all down. I'll tell you what, absolutely no one saw this coming. Most certainly, absolutely, the Iranian regime did not see this coming. Master plan. On top of that, we also just got some very curious news from the Iranian regime's number one geopolitical ally, really the Iranian regime's sugar daddy. Of course, this is the CCP, China. You see, today we just got the news that because of President Trump's ongoing conflict with the Iranian regime, the Chinese economy is effectively imploding right this very moment. And now China, the CCP,
Yeah,
they
see,
are
he's
quite
saying he's reporting
literally
the same thing I heard.
begging to bring this conflict to an end. They want this thing done with. They can't take it anymore. And then on top of that, we also have some absolutely massive domestic news pertaining to Trump's ongoing illegal immigration crackdown, Trump's plan to reopen the DHS, and some pretty stellar news here in the U.S. pertaining to the upcoming midterm elections. I think you guys are really going to enjoy today's broadcast. We have some pretty good news to talk about. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into all of this, do me a favor, respectfully, I will ask, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe if you're a new member to the show. I appreciate that a lot.
Gas is down a little bit now. Gas is down to $3.99 a gallon. So that's a good sign, but we'll see how long it stays down there.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into this. To kick things off, what I want to do first is talk about some of
Is
our
gas prices
domestic
going down
news.
in
Like I said,
y'all's
a lot
area?
of good news today. Ladies and gentlemen, first things first.
Every lighter still runs on butane, the same fuel from 50 years ago. That's exactly why they...
It's official. The United
'Cause let's face it, gas prices really they do. They dictate. You're not going to dictate to me, boy. They dictate what's going on in the world. Still over 4 here. So what about hemp? Pimp. Damn, it kind of rhymes. Hemp and pimp. But anyways, what about hemp? They saying that $2.89 in Kentucky. Damn, that's good. That's not bad. I wouldn't be pissed off if they were $2.89. I could kind of deal with that. But anyways, what about getting back to growing hemp for fuel?
United States just witnessed a minus 100% decrease in illegal aliens released at the border in March of 2024.
You know, last time when gas got up around $5 a gallon, they said the same thing, Bulldog. And I have seen it down to $1.99 a gallon after that. Not very long, but I had.
This is the Joe Biden administration. This is the auto pen administration, as some people call it. I think I call it that myself. They saw 78,496 illegal aliens get released into the United States across the border. In March of 2026, just last month, that number, I'll give you a hint, it's circular, or rather ovular.
79.
It is zero. Let's take a look at the
That's
report.
a hard pill to swallow, man.
New DHS.
You know, and I haven't had a service call all week. I ain't left the house all weekend. I think one time. And trucks, when semis stop rolling, we're in fucking trouble. I don't care what anybody says. When semis quit rolling, we're in trouble.
Data show last month, zero illegal immigrants released into the United States after being caught at the border. Now,
Wow.
that is down dramatically. Well, of course it would be. From 78,000 released into our nation in March of 2024.
Yeah,
Under President
2006
Biden. It also
wiped me
marks
out
11
that time,
straight
Tex.
months of zero catch and releases, all with DHS unfunded through March. That is incredible that continues without distraction or
rope,
disruption.
medicine.
Senator-
11 months
So-
of no releases. March is the
You'll-
11th in a row. Ladies and gentlemen,
You know, they just
I don't
passed
wanna
a
get
law
too
where it's
aggressive.
legal to grow hemp in every state in America now. Did you know that? I don't know what it would take. They say it only takes a cold press, but with a little bit of knowledge to get fuel out of hemp. It may be a good alternative. They say a quarter of an acre can sustain you.
aggressive here early on in this broadcast, Lord forbid on a Friday of all days. I'll tell you something though.
Mix a
I can't
little,
help but think of information like this, of
a little
data
regular
like
with
this,
it. You know what I'm talking about?
of facts like this. Whenever somebody chimes up and they say, well, really, there's no difference between the two parties. Don't you know that? If you vote for a Republican, you might as well be voting for a Democrat. And if you vote for a Democrat, you might as well be voting for a Republican because they're the same. They're exactly the same. There's no difference between the two parties. Well, maybe in some ways you're right. Maybe. However, in most ways, you would be absolutely wrong. For 4 years during the Biden administration, we had an open border, 25 million unvetted illegal aliens sneaking into this country. Not even sneaking. They were tap dancing their way into this country. And everybody knew. And the Joe Biden administration, the Auto Pen administration, let it happen because they wanted it. Very stark difference, very clear difference to what we're seeing now. 11 straight months of zero releases into this country, and the mass deportations are underway. There is a difference. Let's talk about some more differences. Breaking news information today. The Trump administration has turned the national immigration courts into part of his vast deportation machine by pressuring judges to deny people asylum and firing any judges who refuse to comply. The asylum rate has fallen to its lowest rate this year, 2025, in decades. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, at the height of the Joe Biden administration, over 50, let's call it 55% of asylum applicants were accepted in this country. That's the peak. What is that? 2022, 2023. Now, 7%. So to be clear, 7% of asylum applicants in this country during the Trump administration are getting accepted. That's the biggest drop off ever, the lowest it's been in decades.
They'll probably
But
whack him too by
7%,
the
is that
time
too
it's
many?
over.
What if we could get that number even lower? Here's a pertinent question. What type of asylum seekers are getting accepted by the Trump administration? Well, I've got an answer for you. Ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. has let in 4,499 refugees into the United States since October, but all but 3 were white South African Boer farmers facing that South African anti-white genocide. Ladies and gentlemen, since October, what is that, 6 months, in the last 6 months, 4,499 refugees have been admitted by the Trump administration into the U.S. All but 3 were white Boer South African farmers facing anti-white genocide in South Africa.
Hey,
That is what I voted for. What's more, revealed. Everybody's talking about this today. 99.9% of all refugees admitted to the United States under the Trump administration are white South African farmers, white South African.
Hey guys, you know Paintsville's got a jail, and it's just because of me. If it wasn't for me, Paintsville wouldn't have a jail, y'all.
In general, fleeing genocide. They put this in little quotes there. This is coming out of Great Britain, of course. They refuse to acknowledge what is actually happening down there in South Africa. Yes or no? Is there an anti-white genocide in South Africa? Absolutely, unequivocally, yes. And thank God. God bless his soul. Thank God for Trump, and God bless Trump's soul for letting these people, these white South Africans, into our country. If anybody, it should be these people.
Maybe we can pay.
Another story here, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking. Outrage erupts after nearly a dozen illegal aliens conducted a huge visa fraud scheme in the United States of America. They staged fake armed robberies so they could put on a form that they are victims of violent crimes to get a special U visa, is what it's called. Good Lord. Illegal immigrants staging violent crimes against themselves so that they could continue to stay here in the United States.
This is one of 6 stores behind me where authorities say the suspects staged those fake robberies. All of it an elaborate conspiracy plot to allegedly fast-track their immigration status. Federal agents made the arrest, rounding up 11 people who are Indian nationals who are now charged in connection with a plot to stage fake armed robbery.
What is
All
going
of
on?
whom were what? Indian nationals? Okay.
at area convenience and liquor stores. Federal authorities say some of the defendants posed as store clerks who could then claim on their immigration applications that they were victims of violent crimes, a designation that would make them eligible for what's known as a U visa.
Okay.
If a non-citizen is the victim of a serious crime in the United States, and that victim helps the police, helps the prosecutors or investigators, then that victim.
I want to know who is going through our law books and educating all these idiots this way, because they're not taking the time to go through these books and look over all these laws themselves. It is somebody who is in the fucking damn
may
into
qualify
politics
for temporary
that is telling
legal
them what to
status,
say
a
and what not
so-called
to say.
U visa.
Retired state district court judge James Barreto says there are definite perks to qualifying.
Now that visa, Mary,
Yeah, just like with all the scandals in Minnesota. Do you think that them fucking Haitians or whatever they were, Somalians, do you think that they took the time to study all the laws so they knew how to scam them? No, somebody made them hip to it, said, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z.
as you know,
And whoever's in contact with them people need to be fucking fired immediately.
is good. I think, if I recall correctly, up to
Hurry up
4
and bite.
years, and
No sloppy for
also
you.
may extend beyond that immediate alleged victim to that individual's
Southern
spouse or
Poverty
children. It's a
Institution
big
for Law.
deal.
This is insanity. If you are an illegal alien who snuck in our country and then you are the victim of a violent crime, in this case, the violent crimes were fake and manufactured, you can then get a special visa to stay in this country for 4 years. Ridiculous. Now, I did some
You would think if they were getting the shit beat out of them, they'd want to leave. Makes no fucking sense, but whatever.
research. Who said they're Indian nationals? Who did this? Jitindrakumar Patel, Mahesh Kumar Patel, Sanjay Kumar Patel, Diki Kaban Patel, Ramesh Bahai Patel, Amita Bahen Patel, Ronak Kumar Patel, Sangitaban Patel, Minkesh Patel, Sonal Patel. These are the 10 Indian nationals that have now been indicted by a federal grand jury in Boston in connection with a conspiracy to carry out staged armed robberies of convenience stores that they owned for the purpose of allowing
shout
store
out to Triple
clerks
Nick.
to falsely claim
Shout
they
out
were
to
crime
Triple Nick
victims
for
on
putting this
immigration
out.
applications. The defendants were
Want y'all to
previously
hear
charged
this
by criminal
shit, what
complaint
this
in
dumbass
March of
said.
2026.
I know
last
it's not
month.
as important as what we're talking about here, but listen to what this idiot says right here.
Fighter, and he didn't even have to fight no one. Yeah. Dagmar is the highest paid redneck boss fighter, and he didn't even have to fight no one. Yeah.
Highest paid.
You know, in small letters in there, it said that I had to fight to get the $5,000. That's what fucking pissed me off. It wasn't my fault that I couldn't fight. You know what I mean?
So he's claiming that he got $5,000, but in the same breath, he tells you he never got paid because he didn't fight. What a fucking retard.
The following defendants, all of whom have the last name.
You can't make this shit
Patel.
up with somebody.
I'm sure that's just a coincidence, of course. All
Yeah,
of them have now been
that's
charged
correct,
by a
Mike.
federal grand jury with
That's a
one
good
count
fucking
of
dude.
conspiracy to commit visa fraud. I want all of them charged with immediate deportation back.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'd like to go watch them boys. shoot
Reconciliation bill. This is the
That shit would be awesome. You know what I'm saying?
way to do it. You know, Harris, that the number one responsibility of a government is to protect American citizens.
Yes.
The president said it in
That's
the
right.
State of the Union address. But Joe Biden led over 10 million.
If the federal government doesn't first and foremost protect
Never
Americans,
is
then
Paul
what's the
Shady,
point?
right?
What's the purpose? That is the foundational function, or it should be, of the federal government. Now, we're talking right now, ladies and gentlemen, about a budget reconciliation bill. With most bills in the Senate, you need a majority of 60 votes. That's the problem. In fact, that is why the Save America Act has not been passed, allegedly, because we need 60 votes, or you can nuke the filibuster or have a talking filibuster, blah, blah, blah. But you got to get around that 60 vote. Well, with budgetary bills, you don't need 60 votes. All you need is 50 plus one. If you have the vice presidential tiebreaker, we do. His name is JD Vance. So we need 50 plus one. We can do that. It is this budget reconciliation process, 50 votes plus one in the Senate, that we used, 9 months ago, 10 months ago, to push through the one big, beautiful bill. That was a funding bill. It was a budgetary bill. So we could go through the budget reconciliation process. That is now the process with which the Senate Republicans are planning on reopening the Senate.
They were part of the CIA. You think what you want. There's evidence that they were part of the CIA when they did that.
Refunding DHS, reopening DHS, and adding more funding to the table for ICE and CBP. More information here.
Concerns here at home. That is not stopping Democrats, even their top leadership, from dragging out their DHS-led shutdown or DHS shutdown for 55 days now. Senate Republican Whip John Barrasso and Budget Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham will meet with President Trump to go over a final plan to hopefully finally end the Democrat stunt. They may have to go it alone, though, without Democrats who refuse to fund ICE without reforms. Well, I wonder if they know the president actually already did that with his big, beautiful law and also the Border Patrol.
Slay back.
But yet the Dems fight.
I'm sorry.
Here's Senator Rick Scott.
Slay back. But yeah, here's my thing, man. He's in them fucking files. I didn't want to believe that shit. But after seeing what I seen and his wife coming out trying to get ahead of that shit, he's in them fucking files. And that they got him, bro. He's doing and Rusty was right. I kind of just let it go when Rusty said that the other night. I didn't want to believe it. But no, he's in them fucking files. And I'll tell you something else too. It always has kind of bothered me that he turned Epstein in, but only after he fucking threatened him. So he knew what was going on. And he was okay with it until he wasn't okay with it. You understand what I'm saying? That shit is fucked up, man.
Of the Homeland Security Committee.
Number one, we should never have funded all the Democrat earmarks and all their programs and not funded Homeland Security back in January. That was a mistake. Now, what we know is Democrats don't care about Homeland Security and the safety of Americans. Nope. So we have two options. Either we're going to have to do it through reconciliation, which only takes Republican votes, and we ought to do it for 10 years so this never happens again. Or we've got to come to our senses, get rid of the filibuster, and start passing things on a majority vote.
Now, I wish we could get rid of that 60-vote filibuster. We could if we wanted, but
boy, Mr. Mandolin, you got
some rhinos, Republican rhinos.
Are you a fucking man?
So probably off the table right now.
And
so far as the Save America Act goes, seems like still the best path forward is to invoke a talking or speaking filibuster, at the end of which, similarly, you would only need 50 votes plus one. So that is still on the table. Hopefully we can get that done. I'm not holding my breath, but hope so, the Save America Act. What Senator Rick Scott is talking about here is we're going to use the budget
these motherfuckers
process,
are
50 votes plus one.
Man.
You don't need the Democrats to do this, to fund.
I'll never vote again.
Just ICE
I don't
and
believe
DHS
I'll ever
CBP
pass the vote again
for the next 2.5 years until the end of Trump's term, or 3 years, whatever it is, but rather 10 years. Let's just lay it on. Why not? Because the second the Democrats have control of the country, you think they're going to pass any funding for DHS? They might even get rid of the entire damn department. So, good plan, I suppose. Folks, we got some good news pertaining to midterms. Breaking news. This happened yesterday. Republicans just flipped an Alaska House seat in the House of Representatives on a state level in Alaska that Kamala Harris had won by 8 points in the 2024 election, turning it red. This is a massive flip. This was a Kamala Harris district. We just flipped it red 8 points yesterday. Massive upset.
How in the hell
are seeing this?
One of the most remote areas that survives on using her hands and not taking, government handouts and shit, ever become Democratic to start with.
We've got midterm soon. They are panicking. Wow. Republicans just flipped a Kamala Harris +8 seat in Alaska from blue, relatively deep blue, to red. Let's effing go. The left is very upset about this. We still need Republican voters to surge to the ballot box come midterms in what, 6 months from now, 5 months from now. Another positive update for you folks as we head towards midterms. A lot of people, they're doom and gloom. They're saying, oh, it's already over. Everything is already lost. Pump your brakes. I'm not so sure about that. Updated 2026 governor's forecast projects that Republicans will win 29 of the 50 governorships across the country. 29 out of 50. This would be the most that Republicans have had since 2017.
Yeah,
just about a decade.
Exactly, Jack.
2026
exactly.
governor's
I'm
forecast.
always
Republicans
open
29,
to new
Democrats 21.
I don't want to.
This is what the current polls are.
I don't want to think Trump was out here messing with kids. I really don't. But when you start seeing what's coming out and the reaction of these people and how they try to get ahead of it, and the way that he has just kind of done a complete 180, something is wrong. Something is definitely wrong. And you know, at one time he had so much power, which I mean, he still does, but you know, them people think different. They think that they're the shit and there's nothing that you can tell them. And it's just as sad, man.
The latest polling data predicts 3 flips for the GOP: Kansas, Wisconsin, and Michigan. That would be massive. Meanwhile, no flips are currently forecast for the Democrats, but Republicans are vulnerable in Nevada, Iowa, Ohio, and Georgia. If you live in one of those states, make sure to vote. The governor elections will be less impacted by the national environment than federal races in like the House and the Senate.
I hope you're right.
Democrats are expecting
I really
big wins in the midterms. Perhaps we will see. I think President Trump has a couple aces up his sleeve for midterms. We've still got 5 or 6 months. But on the gubernatorial level, at least
just be the way that he
remain
talked,
in a
right?
very
just like when he said that Epstein stole that girl out of his massage parlor. I didn't know Trump had a massage parlor. But when he said he stole her, I mean, how do you steal a human unless you own her? But then again, it could just be the way that he talks. The slang could be different. People misinterpret what he says.
enviable position. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are going to be voting Republican this upcoming midterm season, go ahead and make sure to hit that like button and make sure to subscribe. That is your oath. It is your pact. Now, Kamala Harris. You never thought we'd be talking about Kamala Harris today. Well, we are. Just for a moment here. Bear with me. Don't get upset. Kamala Harris said just earlier this morning.
Yeah, he didn't have to go there.
She is considering a presidential run for 2028.
That's my thing, Bulldog. I'm not saying he did, but it damn sure looks like there's something up. And it could just be the way that him and Melania got together and her scared that the truth's gonna come out. But something don't look right.
I hope she does. You know what? I hope that she does. I hope Kamala Harris is the Democrat candidate in the 2028 election.
Why wouldn't he
I hope they do that because she is an absolute incompetent.
Who cares who they are?
Poop.
You, just you, building your app on Base 44.
So are you going to run again in 28?
So, okay,
I tried to be subtle, but I just figured I'd go right
But
ahead.
that's as subtle as Reverend Al Sharpton could ever be. We love you for many things, but not being subtle. Listen, I might. I'm thinking about it.
That's a yes. If she's thinking about it, I'll tell you what, that is a yes. You know, probably a tentative yes. She's looking at the landscape. She's seeing what the polls indicate. Who potentially would be her adversary or her rival on the Democrat side of the aisle in the Democrat primary? Who might that be? Well, everybody's talking about Gavin Newsom. I've seen Pete Buttigieg. I've seen his name thrown out there. I've seen AOC. I doubt she will do it. I would bet if I had to make a bet right now at a betting table in Las Vegas, I would bet it'll be Gavin Newsom versus Kamala Harris. Those are probably your top two Democrat dogs, and dogs they are. I suspect that's what we'll see. Man, it's going to be one hell of an election season, 2027 going into 2028. We've got midterms coming up here very soon. It's going to be a very exciting couple years, ladies and gentlemen. Now, folks, at this point, what I would love to do is talk about this ceasefire that we are all witnessing kind of in the Middle East, the war against Iran. How are things unfolding? Before we get to it, like I said, we've got a lot to break down, a lot of twists and turns. Unexpected events have taken place, ladies and gentlemen. Do me a favor. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to follow before we get into this. This is where today's broadcast really is going to get a little bit crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a question that everyone has been asking. Why exactly did President Trump try to work out a ceasefire deal with the Iranian regime? Well, today,
what's up,
folks,
at midnight?
I think we just got our answer. And I'll tell you what, absolutely no one saw this coming. And most importantly, the Iranian regime never saw this coming. We're going to break it all down. First off, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at this. This is a list, the organizational structure of the Islamic regime after 5 weeks of U.S. and Israeli bombing. Next to every portrait here, there's a red skull if they have been taken out in some type of targeted strike. What do you notice? You see certain groups of the Iranian leadership structure has been more highly targeted than other groups. You see over here, this is the IRGC, this rectangle here on the left. A lot of IRGC commanders and leaders have been taken out. The nuclear program, 6 out of 6 taken out. House of the Supreme Leader himself taken out. Former officials and influential figures, the executive branch, police targeted, taken out, leaders of the armed forces taken out. You might notice really 2 groups specifically that have not been taken out. Members of the army over here. This is called the Artesh. The conventional Iranian army is called the Artesh, and the Guardian Council over here, a group of 6 individuals. So it's this Artesh, the conventional army, and the Guardian Council inside of Iran that have remained almost entirely untouched, actually entirely untouched throughout the last 5 weeks of targeted strikes and bombing. Whereas the IRGC and all of the Iranian regime's most loyal, fanatical zealots have all been taken out. They've got a target on their back. This, ladies and gentlemen, what we have just highlighted here is not by mistake. As it would seem, President Trump has deliberately left the Artesh, the conventional army over here on the left, and the Guardian Council alive. He's deliberately left them alive because it's these individuals in these institutions that are the less radical members of the Iranian regime. They are less radical.
It ain't that they're less radical.
At some point down the road, taking
it ain't
control
that
of the
they're
country.
less radical. They're just not as high up in the rankings.
Once all of this is said and done, it's these people that Trump is.
You're not going to change the way these people think, right? Obama's not going to make these people decide, oh, well, I better not do that. You know, I've changed my ways. Yeah, right. That's not it. If nothing, they're going to get even more fucking radical because you done, like I said, you kicked the fucking beehive and you didn't have no spray to kill them. You should have took them all out.
To work with, you got to leave them alive to work with them. Now, as of this morning, we got the confirmation that Trump's hyper-targeted bombing strikes have actually started to cause.
You don't go.
I kid you not. Factional rivalries.
You know, when you got little thug gangs all over the neighborhood, you don't go slap one of them and not finish doing what you're going to do. You go on and fuck him up. You don't let him go back and get the rest of his gang together.
Inside of Iran. You might even go so far as to say that inside of the Iranian regime, there is a civil war going on. This really kicked off yesterday. Rivalries are now just
Bulldog, if it's who I think you're talking about, ain't they in lockup though? Don't they have them arrested right now?
They boil over because of President Trump's ceasefire. The ceasefire that Trump has attempted to work out with this Iranian regime, or what's left of it, has actually sort of sparked off this civil war. if you will allow me to call it that. Let's break it down. Prediction 2 days ago. The power struggle in Iran between the civilian leadership, the Artesh, the regular army, and the IRGC, the more hyper-radical zealots, is going to intensify in the coming hours following the civilian leadership of the Iranian regime agreeing to Trump's ceasefire. It's very possible that they start violently fighting each other. This was a prediction made 2 days ago. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly what we are seeing now. That prediction was spot on. Reports coming out this morning, based on information received by Iran International.
This is why I say that no matter what peace deal they come to, it won't be honored.
Eve of the negotiations between the Islamic Republic and the United States in Pakistan, Islamabad, a severe disagreement has emerged among senior government officials in Iran regarding the composition and powers of the negotiating delegation. So this is what we're talking about. You've got the more zealous, radical, violent members of the regime that are saying, hey, we don't want you more civil politicians of the Iranian regime negotiating on our behalf. Who are you to negotiate on our behalf? We don't want a ceasefire. There's infighting inside of the regime going on. Let's break it down. Report coming out today. Senior Iranian officials are now clashing over the composition of the negotiating team ahead of U.S.-Iran talks, with IRGC Commander Vahidi pushing for changes in leadership roles. The IRGC is unhappy that the more, I guess if you can use this word, civil members of the Iranian regime are looking to negotiate. They are tearing each other apart. You don't believe me? Well, I've got video to show you here in a moment. They can't even agree on the negotiator. Senior Iranian officials are locked in a dispute over the composition and authority of the delegation that is getting sent to Pakistan to negotiate with the United States. As I said, they're ripping each other apart. Well, take a look at this footage from just last night. Elements of the Basij, which is a part of the IRGC, and supporters of the IRGC are now pelting Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi's house with stones in front of the foreign ministry headquarters inside of Tehran. Protesters are throwing rocks at his house outside the foreign ministry. Put it up on the big screen. They are loyalist extremists are protesting the negotiators' house because they don't want him negotiating with the U.S. Basij and supporters, IRGC supporters of the Iranian regime, are pelting Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi with stones in front of the foreign ministry headquarters in downtown Tehran in protest against his participation in the Islamabad negotiations taking place in Pakistan. So
when you got that going on, there's no way they're going to honor a peace deal. No matter, they're just wasting time, precious time.
Folks, let's break down what this means. Here's the reality. President Trump has strategically implemented this ceasefire to deliberately sow chaos inside of the Iranian regime, because now all of these disjointed regime outfits have been forced to determine who actually is their leader at the moment, who's going to be negotiating on behalf of the regime. And also they've been forced to coalesce around one unilateral path forward. Do they make a deal with the United States and President Trump or not? And if so, who's the member of the Iranian regime who will step up and be the leader and negotiate that
True
deal?
that.
Folks,
True
those
that.
decisions right there are literally tearing the Iranian regime apart right this very moment. The reports are confirming this. The video footage is confirming this. Now, President Trump also posted this just earlier this morning. I want you to take a look. As all of this chaos is unfolding inside the regime right now, President Trump posted on Truth Social, he said this: world's most powerful reset. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think he means by that? It's because of this ceasefire chaos inside of Iran, all of this infighting currently going on inside of the Iranian regime, that, guess what? President Trump feels emboldened as a he's using this ceasefire, one, to sow chaos inside the regime, but also as a means with which to resupply the U.S. military's position against the Iranian regime. Look at this. We got reports coming out now. Just in, President Trump is preparing for military action in Iran if Iran does not comply with the ongoing talks. U.S. warships in the region are currently being rearmed in the event that negotiations collapse.
Oh, shit.
Hey everybody, Jacob with Georgia Solar Pros here. Just going over another project we recently completed in North Florida. Here at Georgia.
I'm searching for something else.
So when he says most powerful reset, that is exactly what we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, it's because of all of this reset chaos and this rearmament, all of this infighting currently going on inside of the Iranian regime, that guess what? All this infighting has resulted in the Hormuz still not being open. You've got all these independent IRGC outfits doing their own thing, arguing, bickering. At the moment, the Hormuz is still not open. Trump is not happy about it, but I'll tell you what, he's got a plan. Let's take a look at some of the news here. As President Trump also posted this morning, any country supplying military weapons to Iran will be immediately tariffed on any and all goods sold into the United States of America. 50% effective immediately. There will be no exclusions or exemptions. President Donald Trump.
Tariffs
while
are not going to
the
stop
U.S., the
somebody.
United States military, Trump, while we are resupplying and resetting here during the chaos and
Look, tariffs are not going to stop anybody from doing something. Do you think they give a fuck if you charge 50% more on the items that they sell in taxes? No. That's like creating a new gun law. When a criminal decides to do something, they don't stop and say, you know what, before I go blow this dude's head off, let me check and see what the law is about that. That's the most stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life.
folds inside of Iran as a consequence of this ceasefire. We are resupplying. Trump comes out and says, any foreign country that attempts to resupply the Iranians, however, you will be tariffed into living hell. 50%. Economically crippling. Who are the countries that would potentially resupply the Iranian regime during this ceasefire? Russia and China. Do you think either of those countries is going to want to mess around with a 50% tariff on products sold into the U.S.? Most certainly. China will not. I think Russia will not.
They don't give a fuck. They're over there sending weapons to them right now, man. That shit doesn't
either. So Trump is out here. He's grabbing this situation by the cojones here, and he's saying, we are going to resupply and reset. They are not. And anybody that attempts to help them resupply and reset, you will be tariffed into high hell. What's more, President Trump said this morning pertaining to the Strait of Hormuz, there are reports that Iran is charging fees to tankers going through the Hormuz Strait. They better not be. And if they are, they had better stop now. What do you think he's going to do? He goes on to say, Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable, some would say, of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That is not the agreement we have. One of the contingents of this ceasefire deal was that they must reopen the Hormuz. It seems like because of the internal chaos and strife,
they're not going to reopen it. That's the only tool that they have as far as leverage. And that's why they haven't reopened it. And they don't have any plans on doing it. Just like I said, I watched that marine tracker. You could see it's got every boat on there with a different flag marker. Oil tankers are red. Container ships are green. Private civilian boats are blue. You can watch a certain boat go around to these tankers and stuff, and they're guiding them through the strait. They know exactly where these mines are at. Don't think for a minute that they don't. They know exactly where they put them.
Fighting currently going on amongst the Iranian regime, the leadership of the Iranian regime, they can't even get the Hormuz open if they wanted to. It seems like there's no one currently inside of this country, inside that regime,
Drop
that has the
bombs in
unilateral
the water.
top-down authority to give that command,
Blow all the
open the
mines up.
Hormuz. Because it has not happened yet. The infighting is very serious. We have a report coming out. Take a listen.
Tells Fox News Iran is indeed demanding fees for the few vessels it's allowing to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. This official adds the strait is effectively under full IRGC control. They decide who gets to go through, but more importantly, who doesn't. I am told that there is intelligence being shared in the
If they were to stray across that water right there and drop them small cluster bombs, it would set them motherfuckers off. It would ignite them mines. They could clear that shit. Yeah.
community about how Iran is trying to tighten its grip on this strait ahead of the negotiations this weekend. Overnight, President Trump taking to Truth Social to talk about the issue, saying, quote, Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable, some would say,
That's right.
of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That is not the agreement we have. With just 8 vessels reportedly passing through the strait in the first 48 hours of the ceasefire, a statement was released via state media from Iran's supreme leader overnight saying, quote, and certainly
Yeah, I
we are
wish that
entering
was
a new
bigger so y'all
era with
could
the
see it.
management of the Strait of Hormuz. We did not and do not seek war, but we will not give up our rightful rights in any way. And for this, we consider all the fronts of resistance as one.
The supreme leader said that, huh? Did he now? Or is it possible that he's actually in a coma? He's not even cognizant. He doesn't even know that he is the supreme leader, and some hyper-zealous IRGC outfit is putting out this statement on his behalf.
The region is waiting to see the outcome of the talks in Pakistan as Iranian officials and U.S. officials
Yeah, I
appear to
get
be
that too,
discussing
Jan.
a
After
different
this
set of
shit's over,
terms.
I ain't talking
Iraq's
about
foreign
this shit
minister
no more.
spoke
But this,
yesterday
it
about the
just
talks.
bothers me. This shit bothers me.
We discussed the upcoming negotiation process in Pakistan, and we support and encourage this process. And we hope that the negotiation process will achieve its goals, which are peace and security in the region.
One issue that appears to be a sticking point is whether or not Israel will still be able to strike Hezbollah, Iran's largest proxy based in Lebanon. Overnight, the Israelis struck a variety of launching positions in southern Lebanon, and shortly after, Hezbollah launched a rocket that triggered sirens in Tel Aviv.
Most definitely.
For the first time in modern history, college students.
Folks, here's what we know. Israel aside here for a moment. If the Iranian regime is not able to sort out their leadership problems, to put it lightly, then you know that Trump right now, it's all part of his plan. We're talking about it right now, is using this ceasefire as a time period with which to restock, resupply, refuel, get ready to go in case we need to have a round 2. And that might end up being the case. But also, not only, as I'm trying to point out here, not only is this resupply phase being taken advantage of by Trump, but also this ceasefire has been strategically used as a wedge to divide and tear apart the Iranian regime. And that is happening right now. We've got proof of that as well. Just in, President Trump says the results of talks with Iran will be clear in about 24 hours. We're going to know very soon what they're going to do, Trump said. We have a reset going, he says this morning. We're loading up the ships with the best ammunition, even at a higher level than we used to do, than we would need for a complete decimation. We are resetting. They are not.
What Trump's
What
putting
is the
on
Iranian regime doing right now?
Truth
They
Social
are
right
tearing
now.
each other apart.
We're going back to
Civil war, they're saying. Trump said also this morning, he said, and I quote, the Iranians don't seem to realize they have no cards other than a short-term extortion of the world by using international waterways. The only reason they are alive today is to negotiate. Wow. What a threat. What a dare I say, bombshell statement. He's saying the only reason I have allowed you members of the Iranian regime to remain alive is so that you can negotiate with me. To the extent that you stop negotiating with me and really meeting my demands unconditionally, well, we're going to blow you up, and we could do so any time that we want. You're only alive out of our good graciousness. And the second you take advantage of that, you will be turned into a fine pink mist. That is the message to take away here. This statement here. The final one we're going to take a look at from President Trump. He's been busy on Truth Social. He says, the Iranians are better at handling the fake news media and public relations than they are at fighting. He's mocking them. He's saying, you're only alive because we have allowed you to be alive, and you're much better at yapping and lying to the media than you are at fighting. This is a very clear threat. You have to understand that the Iranian regime is seeing these messages in the same way that we are. You think they've gotten the message? I would imagine so. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever happens next, I think we can all be sure that all of this is part of President Trump's really, sincerely master plan. There's no doubt about that. And that plan is to continue putting America first. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have another massive story here, and this is perhaps going to be my favorite story of the day. You guys know that I love to yap about China. As we've said every single day of this conflict, really all of this is about China. The Iranian regime is effectively nothing more than a proxy force propped up, built up, and subsidized by the CCP, China. Now we're going to talk about the Chinese angle because things are getting very bad in China. China is like begging for this conflict to come to an end. So before we get into that,
yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, I will say again,
here's my thing. What extreme are they willing to go to make it end?
And do me a favor, make sure to hit that like button.
he's
Make
busy a
sure
lot.
to subscribe. It really, sincerely does help a lot. Do it now. Do it now. Before you forget about it, get at your phone or your computer and make sure to hit that like button. It helps a ton. Now we are going to talk about China. Let me make sure I'm ready to go. Okay, I think I'm good. Are you good? Everybody ready? Ladies and gentlemen, China's economy has quite literally just imploded as of this morning, and their global ambitions have similarly just been crushed. And the best part is, this was all part of yet another one of President Trump's genius plans. Now, as many of you know, the Strait of Hormuz has effectively been shut down for 5 weeks now. And prior to that shutdown, I kid you not, 90% of all Iranian oil coming out of Iran.
Did you know, speaking of Germany, did you know that one of the first that I could find anyway, which is, I don't even know why I'm supposed to say this, but anyways, one of the first transsexual operations was done back then. That's one of the things that Hitler was freaking out about.
Through the Strait of Hormuz was going to none other than a little country you might have heard of called China, the CCP. But okay, after losing almost all of that Iranian oil because of this ongoing war in Iran, how is the Chinese economy doing? Well, as it would turn out, not so well. Take a look at this news report that just came out just moments ago earlier today. Ladies and gentlemen, China earlier this morning has just authorized their Chinese state refineries to begin using oil reserves amid an energy crisis. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that don't know, China has actually been putting massive pressure on the Iranian regime to cut a deal with the United States and bring this war to an end. Simply put, China is running out of oil and they need the Strait of Hormuz to reopen immediately. They are facing an energy crisis. They are now tapping into their strategic oil reserves. They don't have an infinite amount of reserve oil. The clock is ticking for China and the Chinese economy. In fact, I think it's fair to say that other than the Iranian regime itself, China, the CCP, has actually been the single biggest loser of this entire conflict. And now they're getting desperate, very clearly so. But we also got this report today, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to take a look at this. China has been pushing Iran to seek a ceasefire with the United States, the Associated Press reports. Like I said, China is now applying whatever pressure they have on the Iranian regime, saying, listen, hey, our economy in China is imploding. We are running out of oil. You, Iranians, you had better work out a deal with the United States of America because we need that Hormuz reopened.
So some were
We are getting
saying,
negative.
some were saying that even if they open the Strait up, we'd be 3 to 4 months behind. I don't believe that because I mean, it's some nautical miles, but it ain't that many nautical miles.
Impacted now by this more than anybody else. Open that
Maybe
damn
a month.
strait, is what the Chinese are saying to the Iranians. Break news: China. There's another angle here. China allegedly has pushed Iran to agree to a ceasefire with the United States in a desperate attempt to win favor with the Trump administration. Xi Jinping aims to convince President Trump that Taiwan is a breakaway province of China in their meeting next month. Next month, Trump is flying over somewhere in Asia to go meet with Xi Jinping, a one-on-one in-person meeting negotiation. And of course, you know, China's right now, their biggest aspiration is to retake Taiwan. They want Taiwan to not be an independent country. They want it under their control. Now, here's the problem for the Chinese. Here's the problem for the CCP and for Xi Jinping. Of course, Trump is not going to take the bait. Trump is not going to agree to allow the Chinese, Xi Jinping, to try to take control of Taiwan. Of course not. Trump's entire geopolitical MO, his entire objective is to shut down Chinese expansionism, not to allow and turn a blind eye to Chinese expansionism. As all of you know, we have a very smart audience here. Almost every single geopolitical maneuver that Trump has engaged in over the last 14, 15 months since stepping back into the White House in January of 2025 has been aimed at shutting down China and pushing back on Chinese expansionism. Panama Canal, Greenland, Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, all of this stuff, really in a roundabout way, either first level or second level, is targeted at shutting down.
Trump has been planning this shit for 30 years. He has been planning this shit in his head for 30 years. I've watched all interviews, and I'm sure y'all have too, because they're cycling back on the internet now, of what he would do if he was in charge. And damn if he ain't trying to push them out.
China and pushing them back, okay? In fact, there's something I want to show you, ladies and gentlemen. China today just got some more bad news. Latin America, hold this up. Latin America has finally awakened to the Chinese threat and is now pulling back at China's Silk Road, as it's put. Bolivia has imposed controls on China's zinc mining operations. Chile has frozen a proposed submarine cable project with China. Honduras is seeking to restore diplomatic ties with Taiwan in direct defiance of China. Both Argentina and Peru have opted for U.S.-made F-16 fighter jets rather than continuing to purchase Beijing's JF-17 fighter jets. Ladies and gentlemen, are all of these Latin American countries choosing to do this on their own, or are they responding to pressure from who? President Trump. President Trump has spent the last 15 months building out relations with all of these Latin American countries. This is the Monroe Doctrine, perhaps better known these days as the Donroe Doctrine, the Western Hemisphere from South Pole to North Pole, North America, South America.
Operation
This is
Paperclip.
our hemisphere. This is the hemisphere of the United States of America. Nothing is going to happen in this hemisphere without our approval and direct say-so. So Trump is saying, listen, Latin American countries, you would be much better off working with us, the Americans, rather than the Chinese. They said, yeah, you're probably right. Maybe Trump had to apply a little bit of pressure, but nonetheless, Latin American countries are now turning to us, the United States, rather than China. China is getting boxed out. It was under the Joe Biden.
Which is good because they damn sure was trying to push that fucking BRICS and the digital dollar. That's the last thing that we want to see.
Biden administration that China really was spreading their tendrils, their CCP tendrils.
I know a lot of people don't think about it like this, but look at all the older people that are on fixed incomes that do little side stuff just so they can buy their medicine and stuff like that. If they put that digital dollar in there and start taxing them on every little thing, they'll suffer. They'll suffer big time. And the reason that I say that is because I do go to the farmer's market. I do spend my money with these type of people. And I hate to see it. I hate to see them be forced out like that. It's bad enough that they can't hardly survive. Now, you shouldn't have to see somebody at 70 years old, 80 years old out there working. Trust me, there's other things that they would rather be doing.
Throughout Canada, Mexico, Latin America, Trump is slicing these tendrils off like Hercules, slicing off the heads of the Hydra. Now, thank God for that as well. But folks, even worse than all of this, China got what can only be described as catastrophic news. Today is a very bad day for the CCP. There's a report that I would like to read through with you folks. It's a little bit of a longer one, but this puts all of this into perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, while China was busy shipping missile chemicals to Iran and collecting yuan tolls at the Hormuz, someone was inside its most sensitive supercomputer stealing everything. I kid you not. Massive hack, data breach in the CCP. CNN reports that a hacker group calling itself Flaming China breached the China National Supercomputer Center in Tianjin, China, and exfiltrated up to 10 petabytes of classified defense data. That is a lot of data. The samples posted on dark web forums include bomb and missile designs, animated explosion simulations, structural integrity tests, renderings of the J-2 Chinese stealth fighter, sixth-generation aircraft concepts, Chinese nuclear submarine schematics, Chinese hypersonic weapons systems, and target analysis for American assets, including HIMAR launchers and carrier strike groups. All of this got hacked while China has been facing this economic crisis, oil crisis. They're trying to prop up the Iranian regime. Who do you think is behind Flaming China? Who do you think this group of hackers is working for? I would suppose, if I had to make a bet, for the United States of America. 10 petabytes. For context, the entire printed collection of the U.S. Library of Congress is approximately 10 terabytes. This breach is 1,000 times that volume. It is being sold for cryptocurrency on breach forums. Cybersecurity experts who reviewed the previews told CNN the data appears genuine, matching known output patterns from this Chinese intelligence facility in Tianjin, which serves over 6,000 clients, including defense agencies and aviation firms across China. The timing of all of this is extraordinary. Trump posted a 50% tariff threat on any country supplying military weapons to Iran hours before CNN published this story. 5 Chinese vessels shipped sodium perchlorate to Iran from a port in China in the past 6 weeks.
Not only did have they bought up land next to our military bases, they've also bought up a lot of our farmland and stuff too, which should be, I think in some states, they passed a law where no foreign outsiders can buy property anymore, which should have been to start with. I mean, that's as simple as the day is long.
Propellant precursor for hundreds of new Iranian ballistic missiles. China's Ghost Fleet continues operating through IRGC's Yuan toll booth inside of the Hormuz. And now the supercomputer that designed the weapons China is helping Iran reconstitute has been gutted by hackers selling its contents for the same cryptocurrency that Iran has been charging for passages through the Strait of Hormuz. The irony is architectural. China built a parallel financial system using yuan and a cryptocurrency to bypass the dollar, the US dollar at the Hormuz. Big no-no as far as we are concerned. A hacker group is now using crypto to bypass Chinese state security and sell Beijing's most classified military designs to anyone with a cryptocurrency wallet address. If you have the money, you could go buy all this information if you wanted. The same technology that enables sanction evasion enables espionage monetization. The blockchain does not distinguish between a toll payment and a weapons leak. It processes both, and now it is processing both. For Xi Jinping, this is a catastrophe arriving at the worst possible moment. Scott Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, he's going to Beijing mid-May for the summit. This summit for the Chinese was already going to be difficult. Trump holds the waiver on 150 million barrels of Chinese-bound Iranian crude oil. The 50% tariff threat targets China's arms pipeline into Iran. The IDF has just destroyed 100 Hezbollah targets with Israeli software upgrades the Pentagon approved today. And now the classified designs for China's most advanced military systems, the systems that justify China's rare earth monopoly and the South China Sea posture and the Taiwanese coercion campaign, are now available for purchase on the dark web.
Cash.
China wanted to build a post-dollar world. A hacker group just demonstrated what that world looks like when the technology works in the opposite direction. Folks, China is, as I've said, imploding right now. Economic catastrophe, energy crisis. They are losing every single day more so. They are losing their proxy, otherwise known as the Iranian regime, that they have been leveraging against the United States for really decades now. China is losing their presence in Latin America. Trump is slicing off their global tendrils. And this is why we are seeing reports like this. Urgent, coming from the Chinese foreign minister this morning. We call on all concerned parties in the Middle East to resolve disputes through diplomatic means. China is begging for this conflict to come to an end. Their country, their control apparatus is imploding in 10 unique different ways because Trump is outmaneuvering them every single step of the way. Is Trump concerned about this Hormuzian-induced energy crisis? Well, I don't think so. Take a look at this report that we just got this morning. U.S. crude oil exports are skyrocketing. U.S. Gulf Coast crude exports are now on track to average a record 4.9 million barrels a day in April based on current loadings. That would be an increase of 23%, or almost an increase of 1 million barrels per day since March, and up 30% since February. At the current pace, May exports will exceed 5 million barrels a day for the first time in all of U.S. history. This comes as Asian buyers are securing U.S. cargoes to offset the loss of Middle Eastern oil supply, while flows from the Strait of Hormuz remain significantly limited. For May alone, 28 supertankers are already lined up to carry U.S. crude, compared to 5 typically booked at this point on a month basis prior to this conflict breaking out. Global demand for American oil has never been higher. Ladies and gentlemen.
So, the United States consumer consumes on average of approximately 20.6 million barrels of petroleum products per day as of 2023 through 2024, making it the world's largest consumer. This highly consumption includes motor, gasoline, diesel, and other petroleum products, with about 9.1 million barrels per day dedicated to motor vehicles. So we can't even keep up with our own supply. How in the fuck are we going to sell everybody else's oil? If we can't produce but 5 million a day, and that's a record, so we're not producing half of what we use every day.
Because of this conflict, China is now looking to purchase oil from the United States of America, something that they have historically hated doing. They don't want to be beholden on us. They want us to be beholden on them. But now, because President Trump has tackled head on their proxy force, the Iranian regime, the Hormuz has been shut down. China's economy is imploding. Their energy sector is non-existent. They're desperate.
And that's the way it should be, Phil.
They are looking to buy oil from us. As I said, folks, this is President Trump's baby drill agenda, and it is working flawlessly, magnificently. China's panicking. China's desperate. They're begging for this thing to come to an end. Meanwhile, President Trump is putting America first. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is our big China update for the day. Real quick, I would like to say thank you all for being here. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, folks. We're going to do something very irregular. I normally don't do this, but we are going to do a Rumble sponsorship ad read before we get to the super chats, because I really do love, you guys know, you don't need to hear my spiel again. I really do love Rumble. So we are going to do a Rumble ad read real quick. It'll take 2 minutes, and then we're going to get to the super chats. And I want to hear what you guys have to say about all of this. Like I said, folks, domestically in the Middle East.
I don't give a fuck about this dude's super chats, just to be honest with you. Let's see what they're talking about over here. This was yesterday.
Based on Fox News.
That's crazy.
Everything he reads.
He has to run it based on the circumstances.
Why
The
not
circumstances
actually
are, I'm not going to let these fanatics get a
Why
nuclear
not actually
weapon.
listen
Period.
to the American
Full stop.
people? Only one in 4 Americans actually supports this war. 1 in 4 Republicans actually supports this war.
That's false. Republicans.
So
support the president.
just to note
Republicans
that
support the
despite what
president.
Trump
They
said
support the
in that
president.
New York Post.
All right, I'm not going to play. He's already played it twice last week. But guys, McBreen did a 1-minute compilation of Trump saying Kamala will go to war with Iran. I'm the peace president. We want to go to war with Iran. So yeah, he said a few times war 40 years ago, but not in the majority of what he said. So don't act like that, Jennings. Have that. We put it in post, put it on X and Rumble and everywhere else. I want to put that out, but I'm not going to make the regular viewers see that again. Everybody knows he said it. Yeah, no, okay. Do you want to listen to me and Tucker Carlson, the Pentagon that told you before, and Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Kent, or do you want to listen to Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, and Laura Loomer, who don't know anything about any of this and admit they don't? They don't even study this stuff. They just spew political talking points all day. They said the war would be over in 4 days. Were they right or was I right? Yeah, Trump claims Harris guaranteed to get us into World War III with Iran. So let's now go to Tucker. White House knows Israel nuke on Iran coming. That is, Israel's on TV, the head of their main intelligence agency. We'll get to that in a minute. Already played the clip 3 times. And you got Levin saying do it on repeated shows, and he's Trump's brain, supposedly. So you got to take it very seriously when he says, we'll totally destroy your civilization in 1 day, never return. That's nukes. Now Trump's backed off that. That's good. That's why we got upset. That's why we said, stop acting like a madman. You can't, that's not presidential. You can't do that.
Hey, Chad, and yes, solar farms are everywhere, but they're fucking expensive. And the benefit of them doesn't amount to the cost of them. Shit, I've got them. And just the price of the batteries alone.
And then here's MTG on the show yesterday. The full interview's on X. We're going to air parts of it coming up. Powerful interview. Here's Tucker and MTG.
Why can't this president or any president say no to Israel? And we have a right to know why. It's
you gotta be careful playing Tucker shit.
It's not just because we love Israel and it's the only democracy in the Middle East. And if it is, then our leaders are dumber than we thought they were. But it's probably not that. Because they understand perfectly well how bad this is for the U.S. And there are, believe it or not, a lot of people in the White House who care about the United States. Studies doing Bibi's bidding, some of them can see very.
Solar is good for backup, right? In case of emergency. But that's about it. I mean, it will run the refrigerator during storm outages, power outages, and stuff like that. But trying to use it like full time, it's too expensive. Why do you think that they put a stop to these people going around doing all these solar cells and tricking all these people? These people literally thought they wasn't going to have a power bill anymore. And fuck, they had a power bill plus the bill of the solar.
Clearly where this is heading. It's heading toward a nuclear strike by Israel on Iran. That's obvious. And that would be a world historic disaster. It's also clearly terrible for the American economy, for the American.
And if they would start coal back up, a lot of people would have income coming in. all these counties and cities like where Pimp lives at, up in Virginia and all. They should have never stopped coal to start with.
American people, not even to mention the Americans who will die in numbers if this becomes a land war. So there are people working really hard, really late, trying to fix this, to get a peace, even one that diminishes us, where we have to take some lumps. They are doing that. That's the only reason we got to where we were yesterday, is because people in the White House, taking no credit for it whatsoever, were working to end this because it's bad. But those people, and there's apparently,
Shady J, I'm amazed that high-speed rail ain't already here.
Nothing we can do about it. So again,
What's
why
up,
is that?
smart mouth?
And once this is over, even before it ends, every American has a right to know, why does this tiny country have so much control over our government?
So he's going to run with a narrative that he thinks Trump is being blackmailed.
Is it consent? It doesn't look like it. Now, Joe Kent said point blank when he resigned. And by the way, the day he resigned, he retained highest level security clearance. They tried to tell you, oh, he was a...
I watched that interview with Joe Kent, and I'm going to tell you, there's something to it.
Leaker, he was under investigation. It was a lie. They admitted it was a lie. He wasn't under investigation by the FBI. Untrue. And you know it's untrue because he held his security clearance till the day he left the building. So there's no intelligence in the U.S. government that Joe Kent couldn't see. None. He was one of the most informed people in the world. And his conclusion was, there's something weird going on here.
Looking at this, I'm really concerned about Israel or their agents conducting a false flag to blame Iran to legitimize a full war, or nuking, as Michael Savage said today on the show, to get us into full war.
I am afraid, and I'm giving credit to what Michael Savage said and what you have said and others are saying. I fear that we will see a nuclear bomb used on Iran. And I think
Why
that would
they
be...
do that, though? If they use a nuclear bomb on Iran, then that means that they can't go in over there and get the oil. That makes no sense to me. I think that the nuclear thing is just a talking point to try to get everybody to raise their eyes. Because look, if they bomb Iran with a nuclear weapon, how are they to go in there and clean up after that? It would make that place a wasteland. It would be useless. You couldn't use anything from there because it would be radioactive. That doesn't make sense to me. But maybe I'm missing something.
That'd probably be the worst thing we could see in our lifetimes, is a nuclear bomb used on anyone. But I think that's where this is headed. I believe that's what Israel wants. And I'm afraid, based on President Trump telling us, watch Mark Levin, and then Mark Levin.
Listen, and if they bomb with a nuclear weapon, it opens the door to be bombed, because then it gives every other country in the world, well, America did it,
laying out all the reasons of why nuclear weapons need to be used. I'm truly afraid that this is where it's headed. What you said, Alex, is true. President Trump telling everyone, listen to Mark Levin, and then you have Mark Levin laying out the reasons of why they need to use a nuclear bomb. And he said it was so that it would save American troops' lives. You know what the truth is, Alex? You save American troops' lives by get the hell out of the Middle East. We had no business there to begin with.
I'm really concerned about Israel. Drug us in 39 days ago. I'm concerned about them doing something even bigger to force us into this. What do you think?
I fully agree.
Now, Iran knows, whatever you think about them, I'm no fan of the Shiite mullahs, that they've been dealt with in bad faith in all these negotiations. And then every time they try to peace deal, Israel attacks them or kills the negotiators, just like they hit Lebanon and hit Iran again. And then Iran shot missiles hours after the peace deal, and the media only showed that and said, oh, look, they're firing missiles. It was all over the Israeli news. They were attacking first. I mean, it's just, they're counting on low information American TV viewers and voters that just believe whatever Fox is putting out. And I said yesterday morning, I believe they'll close the Strait of Hormuz. The deal was broken by Israel. Hours later, they did. Then Trump said, no, they didn't. Then, okay, they did. Now they're letting 15 ships through, whoever they want. The Pakistanis, the Chinese, and others. The deal has been broken. And now J.D. Vance is in there trying to get this deal done. Vance warns Iranians ahead of Pakistan talks. U.S. has all the cards, and we want the nuclear fuel. And Iran should give up the fuel and let a third party like Russia ship in regular fuel for their nuclear reactors. And then now Iran has the deal to rebuild with the tens of 40, 50 billion a year off the toll that Trump is supporting. And then Laura Loomer says, well, we shouldn't go now. They're not falling. It didn't work. Good God. It's the woman that takes $200 to eat dog food on TV. She's now literally telling Trump what to do. New York Times report feels Vance warned Iran war would be a disaster as Trump just I've shown you. And not just Roger Stone that's privy to it. Other people. I'll leave it at that.
I'll leave it at that.
And I told you this months before. Because the majority in the White House don't want this, including Susie Wiles. I told you 2 weeks before she started going public last week that she's against all this. And now you see it everywhere. But the neocons go, you don't know anybody. No, this is all going to work great. No, you're a bunch of liars that somehow brainwashed Trump. And we're not defending Trump. The point is, you're the ones that did it. You're the ones that started it. You're the ones that are killing the ceasefires. It's you. And we blame Trump for allowing this to happen. But we're talking about the source of the problem. Here's a report on Fox News on, again, the Strait of Hormuz closed down. Here it is.
Are saying that oil tankers passing through the strait have been stopped because of Israel's ceasefire breach. So you have that going on. And there's a report out there that says that the president might not send J.D. Vance to Pakistan for the meeting in Islamabad on Friday.
Might be a little soon for that.
Yeah, we're just kind of like piecing this together right now. Some of this could play out the way we're saying it. Some of it may not. I think it's tenuous at the moment. And we've said it many times that ceasefires in the Middle East are tricky things. I experienced one about 20 years ago. It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. Israel and Hezbollah had been going at it for 2 months, every single day, 24 hours a day. They set a deadline for 8 o'clock in the morning. We crawl out of bed. We walk outside on the deck of our hotel.
Discover the true hidden cause of neuropathy. Hint, it's not what your primary doctor has been telling you. If you're struggling,
We're waiting for the countdown. It's 7:50 in the morning. As soon as 8 o'clock ticks, silence everywhere.
Yeah, like the Korean War. We're still at war with them. It's just a ceasefire. Now, Nick Fuentes is saying if Israel's willing to do all this, what's their plan B? Well, the plan B is hit Iran with nukes, or even stage an attack with nukes and say Iran did it, or hit the United States and say Iran did it. That's just the next thing in their arsenal. And if you don't know that Netanyahu was in power 25 years ago, and with the neocons, I mean, films on it, wrote books on it, takes 10 hours to get into it, was heavily involved in 9/11, you're crazy. Even the neocons said in the PNAC report 1 year before, we're going to have a big attack in the U.S. as a pretext to invade and take over these 7 nations, and Iran's the last. And that's where we are now, this long-term project. So, yeah, we've now entered the wheelhouse of false flags in America to be blamed on Iran because Israel doesn't like to lose. And Israel's got a lot of chutzpah, a lot of bravado, a lot of hubris. But the plan B is not just false flags or assassinations in America. It's nuclear war to drag us fully in and create a global crisis and force us into this. Here's Nick Fuentes.
If they control our media, if they control our security apparatus, if they control our banking system,
hey, it's Alvin, Simon, Theodore, and the Chipmunks. I'd like that. That's a new cool thing we're doing. Do we have the file that's not corrupted? We have it.
If they control our security apparatus, if they control our banking system, if they are the intermediaries, the middlemen with everything, global trade, they have a position in the court of every government in the world. What are they going to do to us? Are you starting to understand the problem? What plan B do they have in store for Americans? They had a plan B for Hezbollah. They put plastic explosives in all their pagers. Hezbollah was running around for 10 years with radios and pagers, talking to each other, communicating on their hip every day. And there were plastic explosives planted by Israel the entire time. How the fuck do you think they did that? They've got shell corporations everywhere. Where does Hezbollah even get their pagers? Some electronics wholesaler, some manufacturer. Israel's got shell companies inside of shell companies, factories,
What's
fake
up, Playback?
LLCs. It's all obfuscated. Shipping companies. They probably control the factory where it's made. They control
Israel
the
founded
facility
Hamas.
where it's distributed.
To be fair,
they control
Smart
the
Mouth,
ships
this
Netanyahu
is
founded them.
just
It's worse
upon
than
which
that.
they were delivered. How convoluted. That's the Mossad, and that is the Mossad's Jewish allies in Eastern Europe, in Asia. Who even knows the extent of this? And this is what they had in store for Hezbollah. You don't think they got a plan B for America? You don't think they've thought about that? They prepared, that was 10 years in the making, 10 years. Hezbollah's walking around with plastic explosives in their pagers. They had people in Iran following around the Ayatollah for 10 years. You don't think they got somebody on Trump? He's on TV. His name's Howard Lutnick. They had somebody following the Ayatollah, giving his whereabouts to Israeli intelligence the whole time for years. So did the CIA. You don't think Israel has somebody on the president at all times? You don't think they got a plan B for our financial markets, for our credit system, for the money supply, for the media? You don't think they've got stuff in New York? You don't think they have a warehouse in New York, in LA, in Miami? They do. You can almost be sure of it. And that's why the American president doesn't want to take them on, because he knows he'd rather the explosives go off over there than go off over here. This is when I say Iran is fighting for all of us, because you think about, okay, you want to fight Israel. What do you need to do? Well, Israel has the U.S. at its beck and call for these reasons. They've got nuclear bombs. They've got an air force furnished by the United States. They've got the Mossad. Jews are everywhere, and the Mossad talks to all of them in Tehran, in Brussels, in Paris, in Washington, in Moscow, in Petersburg, everywhere. How the f are you going to fight back against that? I'll tell you how. You need a country of 100 million people. You need a Revolutionary Guard of religious zealots ready to die for their cause. You need them answerable to a supreme leader who's a cleric ready to die. You need 5,000 missiles buried underground. As a matter of fact, you need the facilities that make the missiles buried inside of mountains. You need enough uranium for 10 nuclear bombs. And then the United States will consider not trying to smoke you out and survive. Are we prepared for that? That is what cost Iran to tell Israel no. That is what cost Iran. That's the price of their sovereignty. That's what sovereignty is. It's the ability to tell another country no. What is the price that Iran has to pay to tell Israel and Washington no? They had to turn their country into a fortress. They had to build a 1 million man army motivated by religion, and then they had to turn their entire country into a military base with drone and missile launch platforms everywhere and underground. And they had to sacrifice every 100,000 Revolutionary Guard with a bench, 7 people deep, because they knew all of them were going to get assassinated. That's what they're doing to protect themselves. Is the United States ready for that?
And they think they're going to rule the world with their Messiah. Israel thinks they're going to rule the world with Messiah. The Christian Zionists think it's Israel's going to rule the world. This is crazy, people. They're all crazy. And I'm just saying, please stop. I don't want to be involved in this. My president's my president, not yours. And I'm going to fight, and I'm going to get on his ass to keep you away from him, Israel, because you're certainly not under the control of the Muslims. They were doing this, I'd be after them too, and criticizing Trump. All right. We're going to start the next hour. I got the MTG interview, big segments of it, full interviews posted on X. That's coming up. We got a bunch of big guests on a whole bunch of other huge issues. They're saying there's 4 alien species on the earth. Members of Congress have been briefed. Is it a PSYOP? What's really going on? We got the answers. It's coming up. And so much more today. We have some huge special guests on a CIA Operation Artichoke. It's all coming up in the 3rd and 4th hour as well. But remember, I'm not funded by Israel, Qatar, the Iranians, or the Easter Bunny. I'm funded by you at thealexjonestore.com. And InfoWars is close to getting shut down. Looks like we're going to shut down the 30th this month. The Alex Jones Network will launch. They own that. It's funded. We need your funding. We have this InfoWars historical classic 1776 line of shirts, special edition with 1776 on the shoulder and new ball caps. They're limited edition and it funds the operation. You need to go there now. You need to take action. We have so many other great, amazing supplements, and 2 new supplements have now just come out. But I got to tell you, the 1776 line is limited edition, 1776 on the right shoulder with classic InfoWars designs and new designs. These are limited edition. Once we switch over on InfoWars, we're not going to be selling this anymore. This is your last chance to get these, and it's a fundraiser. We need your support right now. We have 2 new products, Ultimate Chill and Ultimate Energy, that are super powerful formulas at very low cost at thealexjonesstore.com. Here's a breakdown of that. We'll come back and start the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th hour. Stay with us. I'm very pleased to announce 2 new great products at thealexjonesstore.com that'll 100% work and deliver you energy, clarity, and also when you want to relax, great calm, rest, and sleep. Now, a lot of our products are very
now, the tea, we don't drink tea over here too much, but we drink coffee, but it's the same concept, I believe.
Complex, game-changing, cutting edge, you name it. But there's a lot of things that are very simple and proven. USA 250, 1776 forever. Again, from the bottom of my heart.
From the bottom of my heart.
And the full interview is up on Infowars.com and Real Alex Jones on X and Rumble. But here's that interview, and then we're going to shift gears into the stuff they're wanting to distract us from and why governments are so freaked out coming up. But here's my interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
We have to be realistic about the Republican Party. The Republican Party needs burned to the ground. It's completely.
My God. She's all the way in.
92% of people who have tingling or numbness in hands or feet are missing the warning signs of decaying nerve.
Controlled. As a matter of fact, much of Congress is controlled by AIPAC and by Zionists, and that is a serious problem. I fear that we will see a nuclear bomb used on Iran, and I think that'd probably be the worst thing we could see in our lifetimes, is a nuclear bomb used on anyone. You save American troops' lives by get the hell out of the Middle East. We had no business there to begin with. And the truth is, look, you may have supported President Trump for 10 years like I did and like you have, but this is not the same man. This is not the same man that we supported, which Doge was one of the most popular things, along with border security, mass deportations, Doge. These were in America First, lower inflation, lower the cost of living. Those were the core components of the campaign. That and my God, got the debate. That is what so hold people accountable for the love of God.
Again, the full interview is on X. Why now? Share it.
He jumps around awful lot. I don't know what happened.
And it's time to use the 25th Amendment. He's not mentally stable. And you can love President Trump. You can not love him, no matter how you feel about him. But everyone has to be honest and realistic and wake up and look at the facts. Any person, no matter who they are, when they say they are willing and they set a deadline and they literally say 8 p.m. that night, that they are going to wipe out an entire civilization of a country that, by the way, Iran has not bombed America. We don't have bombs falling on our head. We are not being attacked right now. Nothing is happening like that to us. Am I defending Iran? No, I am not. I'm just pointing out the realistic facts. But President Trump put out that Truth Social right there and literally said that he would wipe out an entire civilization of people. I don't know how that is defensible by anyone.
It's total supervillain stuff. Not even Hitler said that out loud while he was actually trying to do it.
No, that's absolutely right. An entire civilization, and then saying it's going to be bridges and power plants. That's critical infrastructure.
And he said never to
people.
come back. I thought he's trying to save these people.
Yeah, never to come back. And the president has come out and he's spoken about why he's going to war, and it was to free the Iranian people. So
Trump posted on Truth Social an hour ago. The fake news media is crazy or just plain corrupt. The United States has completely destroyed Iran's military, including their entire Navy and Air Force and everything else. Their leadership is dead. The Strait of Hormuz will be open, and empty ships are rushing to the United States to load up. But if you listen to the fake news, we're losing. President John J. Trump.
Claimed it was to help them. He said it was not about the oil, but yet it's straight up about the oil. It's all about the Strait of Hormuz. And it's because I think he's found out that this is not popular. People don't want to have the so-called temporary pain for long-term gain.
Well, that was the
That's
good
such a lie
news,
that they
though, is
said.
when you and Tucker and everybody else came roaring out, not the Democrats. They saw polls, and I'm talking to insiders at Rasmussen, you name it, they're below 33. He's in free fall. So thank God, still somehow we're able to get to him. And again, I love the old Trump. I told you on the phone this morning, I said, I hate the new Trump. I'm just going to be honest. I hate this person. This is a disgusting husk of the former person. This is like, in a vampire movie, you love your wife or your husband until the vampire bites them and they're now a vampire. I mean, this is horrible.
Right. No, it is horrible. And look, I loved President Trump and I loved everything that he had promised to the American people in 2024. But this has been a complete 180. MAGA went from being America first to now it's America last. But here's the conversation that we all need to have. And I'm a Christian. I know you're a Christian. Many of the people I know in the administration call themselves Christians. Many of the Republicans I served with in Congress call themselves Christians. Many people that voted for President Trump call themselves Christians. But we have to go from some language to actually behaving and acting like Christians. That's what being a Christian really is. And look, I'm not claiming to be a perfect person, and I'm not claiming to be a Bible scholar or expert or a pastor. Not by any means. I'm very much just your average.
You don't say we're going to wipe out civilizations. You don't lie and flip-flop 5 times a day.
No.
You don't have your cabinet worshiping you and comparing you to Jesus. Tucker said it. This is not Christian. It's the opposite of that.
It's not Christian. And the post that it disturbed me deeply inside was on Easter morning when the president made that horrific post, and it was shocking. Easter morning is when families and people all across the country, Christians across country, are waking up and celebrating the fact that Christ has risen from the grave. This is the greatest day that we have. And it's literally the basis of our entire faith. And many families are getting ready to go to church and planning to have, all day long celebrations with their families and cooking and gathering and eating. And the president put out
she got
a
me
post
smart
that was
mouth.
the most disturbing post I've ever read. And
we'll pull it up and put it on screen, but effing.
The dude he didn't keep it, did he? He just borrowed it for a minute. Fuck. She's got plenty of it. She takes it with her everywhere she goes. Come on, bro.
Open the Strait of Hormuz. Allah is great. Just I'm going to totally destroy you. It's just foaming at the mouth.
Yeah, it's unacceptable. And look, there's something about, supporting your president, and we want to support our president. We want to cheer and root for America, but you don't have to be in a cult where you can't call it out. And that is what this has turned into. It's turned into a cult where the Trump administration, the president himself, and everyone around him demands cult-like worship when he's putting up posts like that on Easter Sunday, and then calling to destroy an entire civilization of people. We're talking about children. We're talking about moms and dads, elderly people, innocent people.
But Marjorie, the
Christians.
good news is he did correct, had J.D. Vance make a deal. Then he says that's not the deal, breaks the deal. Israel keeps attacking Lebanon and Iran, so they start firing missiles. Fox News acts like, I hate to say they're the good guys, they're not. I'm just reporting the facts. No. They start firing missiles back, and the media goes, they've broken the ceasefire. Now they've closed the Strait of Hormuz again. So the problem is he finally woke up for a minute but then went right back into craziness. Gut level, where do you see this madness going? 'Cause I don't think this war is ending anytime soon. Yes, we made a big stand. He made some horrible statements. So there was major pressure. He kind of pulled back, even though Susie Wiles, who we know, I'm not saying he's a good person, is telling him, listen to your people, don't do this war, because they can't win it because the regime hasn't fallen. And then you've got Netanyahu saying today, we have video, but I'll post it after you're not with us. You've seen it. He's literally saying, we don't care, the war continues. That's the tail wagging the dog. I had Michael Savage, is pro-Israel today. He said Israel is planning to nuke, from the sources he has at high-level Israeli intelligence, Iran, to drag us into full war. Levin last weekend called for nuclear war.
It's likely that Tehran would be bombed, if not nuked, by the way. And I said it would not be us who did it. I wrote it on my own Twitter feed. I said it would be the bad boy Israel.
And Israel is stronger than ever. This is the bottom line of this campaign up until now. Let me say, there are still additional objectives for us to achieve, and we will achieve them, either by agreement or by resumption of the fighting. We are ready to resume the fighting at any moment. Our finger is on the trigger.
They are not stopping. I'm really concerned about Israel. Drug us in 39 days ago. I'm concerned about them doing something even bigger to force us into this. What do you think?
I fully agree with you. Look, there's something important that you brought up, and you brought up Fox News. And Fox News is basically spewing nonstop propaganda. Whereas when people watch your show or they look on the internet and look at other alternative sources, you're getting the realistic truth. And I think that is a very serious problem, especially for Republicans. There's many people that, especially, baby boomers, they have Fox News on their television all day long, every single day. It just plays in the background, but they're not being told the true story. They're being sold the Mark Levin label, or basically the flavor of the Republican Party, the Lindsey Graham flavor of the Republican Party.
Trump has told us that Mark Levin, tune into him. This is what I think. And I tune in. Yeah. Ground war. Americans are ready to die. You signed up for this. Nuclear war is good. It's like an alternate universe.
Right. And then Mark Levin did something that was unthinkable. He laid out the reasons of why a nuclear bomb needs to be used on Iran, which is the unthinkable. It's disgusting. And so you have what you said, Alex, is true. President Trump telling everyone, listen to Mark Levin, and then you have Mark Levin laying out the reasons of why they need to use a nuclear bomb. And he said it was so that it would save American troops' lives. You know what the truth is, Alex? You save American troops' lives by get the hell out of the Middle East. We had no business there to begin with. This is a completely unprovoked war. I mean, do I support Iran saying death to America? No. But you want to know something? There's a high percentage of Americans in this country that support assassinating the president. And that's horrific, too. So there's a difference between
let's be clear. I agree, but
and actions.
The Tulsi Gabbard, the Pentagon, they all told him 92% chance regime change won't happen. They'll close the strait. It was a loser. Israel drug us into this. I hate to demonize Israel, but they've become the villain with Netanyahu. Trump needs to repudiate Netanyahu, cut off the funding, and listen to Senator Paul and you and others, and we need to pull back. I mean, I talked to a very close person to talk to Trump twice last week for over 2 hours, both times, an hour each time. He was going to fire Tulsi, not this Monday, but last Monday, 9 days ago. Yeah. And Trump had to go, she's the only one that was loyal and released the Cross for Hurricane when Ratcliffe was in that position. Where she's at now, the first term, he didn't do that. And he was like, oh, God, she's really good by the end. It's like he doesn't remember. And that's what's even scarier is like he'll get back on track for a minute and then go right back.
Oh, yeah, but he's always been that way. But it's gotten extremely out of control. He's not in a good mental state to be making these type of decisions.
So what needs to happen? We don't have the votes for 25th Amendment.
No, they're not going to do it. Look, the reality is this administration, it takes the cabinet members coming together, and the cabinet members have to remove the president and install the vice president. And they're not going to do it. All of these, think about it, Alex, this is the problem we have, the Republican Party. The cabinet members, well, they're cabinet members because President Trump appointed them, and they're not going to turn on him. And then you've got most of the Republicans in Congress have his endorsement. And they're terrified to go against them because they're scared of, oh, look what happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Look what's happening to Thomas Massie. They won't go against them.
And I love how he loves all the former Never Trumpers, the Levins, and all the rest of them. But now anybody that's loyal to truth is the enemy. So what do you think we do? Just keep public pressure up?
This is the hard part. I don't think there is a clear plan. It's really what has to happen is the American people have to wake up to the truth. So the American people have to take the blinders off, because look, we have supported Trump for 10 years now, or longer. We have supported this man through thick and thin. I mean, he was indicted. They convicted him, a convicted felon. They impeached him. I mean, all the things that happened, we supported him through thick and thin. And that has glued people to think they have to support him through anything and everything. And that's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. The American people have to open their eyes and deal with reality and deal with truth. And the truth is, look, you may have supported President Trump for 10 years like I did and like you have, but this is not the same man. This is not the same man that we supported. And he is not doing
What do you
the
think?
things.
I know you have limited time. What do you think happened to him? And I see Todd Blanche on TV the last week saying there's nothing left in Epstein. We know 98% haven't been released. Bondi said it's kids being raped by Epstein and world leaders. And Trump is covering this up. He told you it'll embarrass my friends. That alone, turns you against him, which was the right thing to do. But now it's so obvious trying to cause a global new war. What do you think happened to Trump? And then Todd Blanche, Bondi wasn't perfect, but she was just empty suit. This is the actual bad guy. I talked to the Justice Department that killed all the investigations into Russiagate, the auto pit, everything. Now Todd Blanche is there. I mean, it's good that we're finally, you already did it, standing up to him, because he's just going south fast. What do you think happened to him?
We need more courageous people to do what I did and do what Joe Kent did. And we need more courageous people to stand up and say, we're not going to have anything to do with this. Because history is going to prove people like me and Joe Kent, you, Tucker Carlson, and many others that are, or actually few, honestly, right now, that are willing to speak the truth and say, we're not tolerating this. History is going to prove us right, Alex. History is going to prove us right. And it's just like in the beginning with the Ukraine war. And I was one of 3 members of Congress, 3 Republicans that voted against funding any of it. I voted no from the beginning, and we were in the minority. And people were mad at us and attacked us. But by the end, everybody agreed, yeah, enough with funding the Ukraine war. This is ridiculous. It's going to take time, but people have got to stand up and say, we are not going to be a part of this at all.
On the Epstein files, you've talked about this some, you told me probably months before it came out. I talked to others that said this, I'll leave it at that. You're sitting there saying, hey, we got to bring this out. He didn't say, oh, it's old or we can't prove it. He said, it'll embarrass my friends. You repeat exactly from memory what Trump said to you?
He said, my friends will get hurt. And this was a phone call. I was in my office and he was at the White House, and he wanted me to take my name off the discharge petition. And I wouldn't do it. I said, no, I'm not going to take my name off the discharge petition. The Epstein files need to be released. The reason why Trump was elected was to drain the swamp, to take down the deep state. The Epstein files is the epitome of the cover-up of all types of crimes, rape, murder, horrific.
All right, there's 10 more minutes of the interview. It's on X, it's on Rumble, Real Alex Jones, it's on Infowars.com. Get it and share it. This is important stuff. We're telling the truth to save America. We're being loyal to the Republic. 1776, stay with us. I know you're the big health guy. You're way better shape than I am. Don't kick my ass. I've seen you working out with the Liver King. You say you've taken methylene before. I want you to take our medical grade. It takes 30 minutes to kick in. I've given this to 500 people. Only 3 people didn't feel it right away. So good for your body. I'd like you to drink this, Jake. You said earlier when. I appreciate it. I want to get your true review. If it doesn't work, tell me. Here it is.
And now that he lieth, he shall rise up no more. Yea, my own familiar friend in whom I trusted, which did eat of my bread, have lifted up his heel against me. The president of the United States, what had been saying? Oh, he's got something on his hand. His legs are swollen. He's going to die. The president has been under the greatest witchcraft attack that anybody's ever seen. That man is isolated. That man is alone. And the worst part about
and
it
we
is
should be praying for him. I agree. I said it some, but we should be totally praying for him because it's a battle over him right now. Just like the angels and the devil fought over Elijah's body.
Moses' body. Yep, they fought over
Moses' body. Sorry, you're right. Moses' body.
And watch this. Understand this, ladies and gentlemen. The seat of presidency of the United States, the presidential seat, is a throne of power. Men sit in that throne of power, and they retain power for a while. It's why Barack Hussein Obama didn't leave D.C. the first time Donald Trump came in, because he sat in the throne of power. So here we go. We get a Christian president, where everybody say, oh, he's not Christian, he in the Epstein files. We get a Christian president that comes in, who sits in the throne of power.
He goes to the pro-life rallies. Nobody did it. He does the right legislation. He did the actual action.
Right. He sits in the throne of power. He comes under assault. And then everybody's like, oh, my God, we're going to abandon him. No, we cannot abandon President Donald Trump. I'm sorry. Watch this. You want to know what he's contending against? And I'm going to say this. Everybody's upset about what's going on with Israel right now. There's a judgment that's being rendered, and you can see it, against the Christian Zionist movement in this nation. And that it's up in the air with us in our relationship with Israel. But watch this. 1 John 4:3. And every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, whereof ye have heard that it should come, and even now already is in the world. So the president is up against the Antichrist spirit. He's not the damn Antichrist. He's up against the Antichrist spirit. You see it right in front of you. Well,
discover the
I'm glad he's paying somebody else or talking to somebody else who's looking at it from a different.
If you're struggling,
it doesn't make sense. James, what are you talking about? Okay. With part of what we're talking about is the data centers going up everywhere. Part of one of the announcements he made today, which was in the little briefing that the guy with the great voice just did a few minutes ago, was talking about, well, are we building a control system? Are we building a market of beast system? The man is fighting the entire beast system, period. And so the pressure is coming in on him from every angle, from every side. Then when you add in the fact that you bring in people who are not of Christ, that don't believe in Jesus Christ, that don't have the peace of God with them, that actually say, oh, I reject Jesus Christ, I'm a part of the administration, that it's like a doorway for the Antichrist spirit to walk into the White House. So imagine, Alex, the studio door at, I don't never been to InfoWars. Let's say you have a big roll-up door on the side of InfoWars, right? And you're like, okay, I'm gonna leave the roll-up door open, and anybody who wants to come in, they just coming in. And any spirit that wants to come in, they just rolling on in. That's what you're looking at. So yes, when we talk about King Lear and the president having this stronghold, because that's what it is, it's a stronghold that's been erected in his mind. And that's why you see this behavior pattern that we see.
No, I agree. So how do we break that control?
The way you break that control is what the Bible told us to do and what we've seen. When David sinned with Bathsheba, David ended up calling for a fast and making sacrifices unto God. When Hezekiah was having trouble, they went on a fast. What has to happen is there needs to be a fast from one of the thrones of power in this nation. It can be J.D. Vance, who's a Christian. Hey, we're going to do a 3-day fast and pray for the president. It could be Susie Wiles, who's in the throne of the, whatever her position is like the chief of staff. Hey, we can do a 3-day fast for the president of the United States to break this off of him. It could be his wife. It could be his oldest son. It could be anybody that sits in power close to him, and pray for the man and fast. Make a sacrifice to the Lord, and we can repent and say, hey, Lord, we're wrong. This is we went in the wrong direction.
Trump's turned it around before. It can be done.
Yeah. So we have to battle for him. Watch this. I'm gonna give you another scripture. I want you to hear this. Watch. Jeremiah 50, and tell me if this is not what Donald Trump has been doing.
Jeremiah 51, 20, 23. Go ahead.
All right. Thou art my battle axe and my weapon of war. For with thee I will break in pieces the nation, and with thee I will destroy kingdoms, and with thee I will break in pieces the horse and the rider, and with thee I will break in pieces the chariot and the rider, and with thee also will I break in pieces the man and the woman, and with thee I will break in pieces old and young, and with thee will I break in pieces the young pieces, with thee the shepherd and his flock, and with thee will I break the piece in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen, and with thee will I break in pieces captains and rulers. What has Donald Trump been doing on behalf of this nation. Wrecking shop. The man is a giant wrecking ball. He's a battle axe of the Lord. In fact, Alex, you're a battle axe. You just run around wrecking everybody. Boom, boom, boom. I'm a battle axe. Every Christian is called to be one of the Lord's battle axes. So if we have this beautiful, vintage battle axe that's chopped off millions of heads and won millions of victories, but the handle breaks, do we throw that battle axe away? No, we fix the handle. But it has to be fixed spiritually. Now, on to Israel and Iran. I don't understand, Alex, where this expectation of there's going to be peace comes from. None of those people have accepted the Prince of Peace. They all reject Jesus Christ. Where's this peace going to come from? The reason why you saw the movement was when J.D. Vance, a man who sits on a throne, who's a Christian, interceded in and was injected into the equation, then we started moving towards peace. But I expected Israel to attack. I expected Iran to attack because they don't accept the Prince of Peace. And we have to understand this. There's these false expectations we have, although all the information is in front of us. So people are mad at Mark Levin. I expect Mark Levin to be a ranked devil. Sorry, I just expect him to behave like a ranked devil.
Hold on, Pastor James Williams, Darkwater, stop. This literally, Rob New just walked in there, a news director, been here 18 years. He just walked in. No. You talk about this. What does this say? Now, this is biblical. This is how God works. Got touched by God. I'm crying right now. Jamel just literally just showed up FedEx. Rob, come here. Sit down. See this. What the hell going on here? He just, literally, as you said, battle axe, FedEx arrived. What the?
So literally about 10 minutes ago, the guy runs the business side of things brought this to me because usually we don't bring things over like this, but he goes, this just came in. He said it's a battle axe. I couldn't believe it. I can't give his last name, but Ken from
as he
looks like Lapine or Oklahoma, maybe Oklahoma 97739 is the zip code. But he sent it to us. He's an old carpenter and craftsman, and I was making this axe, and God told me it was for Alex Jones. It's literally what it says right there. I mean, it says it right there.
Fire burn.
Put it right there.
You just saw this. Is this insane?
You guys
can get that's how our God works.
Shot of that on the doc
just
mic.
Showed up. Literally, read what he said. Don't show his name.
Yeah.
Read what he said.
Yeah, he said, Alex, I'm an old carpenter and craftsman. I was making an axe for God, and he told me it was for Alex Jones. In my fertile imagination, I built a 2-story that would be presenting it to you, and I won a truck. Well, that didn't happen. I wonder what it would do with the axe. Every time I went to the shop, God reminded me that's for Alex. I haven't even read this before. Yeah. I was talking to my son, Jerry, telling him about this, and he said, just send it to him. So here's the axe, brother. This is your battle axe. Let me remind you that God loves you and gives you strength and courage. The best to you as you move along in this crazy world. Love your methylene red. Really gives this old man energy. God bless you.
Look at this.
Ken.
This literally, he's literally talking about this, and this literally gets delivered to you right as he came on. I mean, this is insane. This is how God works. Go ahead. Look at this.
It's got a little trusty carrier to it.
It's got the cross right there. Right on it. So God told him to do this just for this moment so people see how real God is. Look at that's another miracle right there.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy
now.
And the blood coming off the cross. There it is right there.
If that's really what happened,
gorgeous.
That's crazy.
Wow.
And I didn't read what you said till 10 minutes before you came on.
No, I just got it and walked in here. I'm like, this needs to go on the air. It was a sign from God.
I tell you what. Let me do something. We need to give God some glory right now.
Oh, this is God.
Oh, fire. Holy Ghost fire burn everywhere. Oh, fire. Holy Ghost fire burn. I say fire.
Got old slave hymns going on today.
Holy Ghost fire burn everywhere. Oh, fire. Holy Ghost fire burn. Lord, thank you for verifying your word. Thank you, Lord,
Guys,
for
definitely not a
showing
hatchet.
yourself, Lord. There's no way. There's no way. This is only you, Lord. And there's no one but you that's this glorious, that's this powerful, Lord. And thank you for the example that you've given. Alex is a battle axe. Your president is a battle axe. And Lord, we repent. We repent, Lord, for not being derelict in our duty, Lord. And now we intercede on the behalf of our president, Donald J. Trump. Lord, we decree and declare as the ecclesia now in the name of Jesus Christ, that every form of witchcraft, sorcery, and divination has been cast against our president is now broken. And we invoke and plead the blood of Jesus Christ against it, Lord. His realm of thoughts and his realm of imaginations, Lord, we invoke and plead the blood of Jesus Christ
Mark,
over that.
now,
We
you
decree and
get it,
declare
though,
freedom
man.
for his
You
mind,
get it.
freedom for his heart, freedom from his soul. Whoa, freedom from his soul that they've tried to hang.
And
with
everyone
each
must
and
join
every
us.
one of
Call
these
for the,
show
everyone must
trials.
join us in praying for Trump right now. We're going to break this demonic spell right now. In the name of
We
Jesus.
break it now in
Hey,
the name of Jesus
an old
Christ.
boy's
Lord,
nephew gets out there,
Here's how to
shooting his
legally
pistol
steal gasoline from
sideways and
gas
kills
stations.
somebody. He's
This
still a
programmer
murderer.
got fired from his job at a German car manufacturer.
we thank you and we praise you and we honor you for this great opportunity. And Lord, now we plead the blood of Jesus Christ over his marriage covenant and those who tried to come in between him and his wife, over his family, Lord, those who tried to separate for him from his family, his sons, Lord. And we ask that, Lord, that you judge these individuals. Your word says, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. Is he not one of your anointed, Lord? We have all seen it. Have we not petitioned and prayed for him, Lord? They have harmed him. They have devastated.
To me, it doesn't matter
They
what
have
color he
isolated
is or
him,
what
and they brought spirits
nationality
unto
he
him,
is.
Lord. So now,
He's
Lord,
still the creator.
your word says Jesus Christ came to set the captives free, and he who he sets free is free indeed. Not possible, not free, but free indeed, Lord.
Relax.
Every
Right there. We weren't even getting it was supposed to be the other thing. But how crazy this just delivered in the last 30 minutes. Rob's delivered it 10 minutes ago. He's watching them about battle axes. They walk in with this thing, and the man says, I was told God in Oklahoma, make this for you. Like Close Encounter, he's going to make a mountain. I had to send this to you. My son said, send it. And it perfectly arrived, telling us that your message was true. God obviously knows the future, for it saw all this moment to back up what you just said.
Yep. Watch this. JD Vance,
Dude, that dude's about to cry.
Susie Wiles, Caroline Lovett, every Christian inside the White House, call a fast. You can just have the Christian staff fast. You can call for a fast of the ecclesia, the entire church to fast for the president.
Oh my God, you just said it. God's whole point was to make them listen to you about the fast.
Mm-hmm. And so call for a
God
fast.
literally just took a highlighter to everything you just said. In God's plan, literally had someone make this months ago, be pushed by God, and son said, send it now to perfectly arrive, not last week, not yesterday, today. 20 minutes ago to Rob Do See It, delivered it saying this is for Alex. We talked. The guy that delivered didn't even know this was going on. Perfect.
No,
That's
didn't.
God's perfection right there. You just saw a miracle, folks.
Yep.
And look
And
how
remember-
badass it is.
And remember, biblically, the story of Jonah. Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh. He got swallowed by a whale. He gets to Nineveh. And the Ninevites.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if Trump gets off track. He belongs to God. He's going to do his job if we back him.
He going to do his job. And the Ninevites fast, and the Lord withholds his judgment against the Ninevites. If he did that for the Ninevites, won't he do that for a nation that's in covenant with him? Our founding fathers dedicated this land to the kingdom of our Lord and Savior Jesus
Man,
Christ.
that's a gas
This land is in
station,
covenant
that
with him.
ain't-
He'll do
that
it
ain't
for us,
damn,
but it has to come from a throne of power. So
I gotta say,
one of
though,
you guys,
I gotta say, Mr. Williams,
What the hell is that
you talk about miracles. You see them all the time. I know. I listen to you. Is this not crazy?
No, it is crazy. But that's him. That's how he works. That's why I love him. That's why I serve him. That's him. I'll tell you something else. I'm up last night in the middle of the night, rocking. Lord, are you going with me to this interview? Yes, I'm going with you, James. Will you be there with me? Yes, I'm going with you. I didn't know that's what he meant. But he said, I'm going with you. It's like, whoa. So now I'm sitting here like, this is crazy. But that's my expectation. That's the God we serve. That's God our Father. That's the Son. That's the
And you
Holy
sent
Spirit.
these notes hours ago. I hadn't even seen them. I said until you came on, oh, we're not doing aliens. We're doing this. And boom, it's all about battle axes. Here it is. Literally delivered right as you come on. We check FedEx right as you get on. Boom, FedEx pulls up. Like, can you imagine? That's the power of God right there. This is a true miracle.
Power of God. That is it. That is it. And it signifies your victory over those people who've been coming after you too, brother. The people who be like, oh, we gonna get Alex Jones. Blah, let's get him. Blah. Foolish people, man. Those are some crazy people. You have victory over those people.
Well, it's
Just
not me or
lose
you. They can't stand against God.
Yeah. But God gave you victory over them. Gave you victory over them. Ain't it
worked in this man, this old carpenter in Oklahoma, and he had this thing running for months. And his son he said, this is God's plan. God send the axe now.
That thing came out in the gas station.
You can't even make that up. It's the axe showing up's insane. It's literally in the letter. It's a message from God.
That's the God we serve. I don't know what else to say, brother. That's the God we serve. President's known by endorsement. Man, you got the endorsement. That's all I can say, brother. It's a victory, man. Congratulations. And ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to lose.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Can't lose.
Everything I sell to you works. Obviously, that's the goal. So you get it.
Your obedience is fulfilled. There's a certain level of obedience that we need to meet, and then there's revenge. And so this is why I'm telling everyone, I'm calling for the fast. I'm asking J.D. Vance and those people in power to call for a fast for the president. You can do it in your White House. It'd be better if you include the whole.
And why is it fast? I guess because it pulls you away from the world to have less of it in you. Right? Why does it work so well?
Yeah, well, because it's as Christians, it's our sacrifice. Our sacrifices are fasting, Thanksgiving, praise. It's our sacrifice that we made. For witches, it's cutting a chicken's head or cutting a bull's head.
You know, I ain't had a beer.
We are the living sacrifices. So when we fast, we make a living sacrifice. And think about this. Every time in the Bible, there was a sacrifice that was made. There was fire that met the altar. Elijah against the priest of Baal. And when
called down the fire.
He called down the fire. So you need to call down fire in the White House, ladies and gentlemen. You need to call. And I'm gonna say
pray for the Holy Spirit fired at the White House right now.
We just did it. We did it earlier. We did it. We trust me, we did it. Watch this, Alex.
Another intense day in the high-stakes standoff. The biggest breaking development right now. High-level U.S.-Iran ceasefire talks just kicked off in Islamabad, Pakistan. But one big detail, Iran's haphazard mine-laying operation early in the conflict has created a drifting, poorly mapped nightmare in the Strait of Hormuz that even they can't fully clear. Of course they can't clear it. So the P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, that is likely up there. If not right now, then very soon, providing broad area surveillance, cruising at 500 miles per hour, altitudes of over 30,000 feet while scanning vast stretches of the ocean with its advanced multi-mission radar and sensors, giving U.S. teams eyes on the entire choke point real time, specifically the mines. Let's pop to X right now and look at where this different minefield is.
And then check this out, guys. So this is the hazardous area in the Strait of Hormuz right here, restricted for all traffic, basically. And again, you don't want to cut corners on this thing. So it makes it an even bigger section of the Strait of Hormuz. So this is what Iran has done. They've brought all the vessels closer to their shoreline, easier to intercept for any of the small boats they have left. And then they're bringing this path up here to go into the actual Persian Gulf, close, extremely close to the shoreline, giving them a lot of control on what's actually going on. That gives you guys another little depiction of that. These are actually some of the charts that the captains of these ships are going to see. So it gives us a lot of detailed inside information about how Iran is doing it. And they've got these little checkpoints here, and this gives them a ton of leverage because, again, those ships are being brought up closer to the coastline of Iran, which is just not a good situation. This is the actual minefield here depicted. So we'll just take a peek. Look at it. I mean, it's basically bigger than half the size.
Who's the first captain to fucking make a run for it? Huh?
Of the actual Strait of Hormuz. The minefield stretches from corner to corner about 52 kilometers. So yeah, that's going to make every captain in the entire fleet of all of the world's oil question, yeah, do I want to get close to that? Yeah, no thanks. About 40 kilometers across. So when you just think about the calculus of, do you go near this minefield? Yeah, yeah, let's just say there's a snowball's chance in hell that I'm going to take my ship near this minefield before it's cleared out. That's why the US right now probably going to do the biggest demining operation in recent history. So meanwhile, down below, advanced underwater drones, they take over. The extra large man array UUV is built perfectly for this. This is what the US needs to get into that area right now. Long endurance, persistent scanning, and classification in deep water, while stealthy land-based multi-mission underwater vehicle can hitch rides on host ships, loiter undetected for extended periods, and handle detailed seabed operations. I just can't say highly enough of this technology, and this might be something that the U.S. needs to focus on. We don't need a necessary base in the area, but if we're operating lampreys,
that's crazy.
You don't even need a base.
I would have never
You literally control the Strait of Hormuz from underneath, and there's nothing the IRGC could do about it. That's how this technology could help the U.S. keep the strait open should the conflict kick off again. And as one American official put it to the New York Times, Tehran dropped these things via small Revolutionary Guard boats in such a scattered, poorly documented way that some locations were never recorded and others were placed so they could drift with currents in the Persian Gulf. I mean, talk about zero planning, but this is American air power in action, naval power in action to scoop out these mines and get the global economy humming again. Let's go to X one more time and see what President Trump said about this actual minefield. And then I have a little treat for you, little review of some Iranian propaganda that I think you're going to love. So guys, breaking news right here from President Trump confirming the mine operation in the Strait of Hormuz. So President Trump said, by the way, all 28 of their mine dropper boats are also lying at the bottom of the sea. We're now starting the process of clearing out the Strait of Hormuz as a favor to countries all over the world, including China, Japan, South Korea, France, Germany, many others. Incredibly, they don't have the courage or will to do this work themselves. Very interestingly, however, empty oil-carrying ships from many nations are all headed to the United States of America to load up with oil. Wow, boss move, getting all these different nations to come to the U.S. and buy from the U.S. and then confirming this mining operation that we're going to break into in this video.
Boss move. We don't make enough oil to supply ourselves, so we're going to sell what little bit we do fucking have. Yeah, real boss move.
Confirming that it is taking place, high stakes operation to get all these mines out of the area. We know the U.S. delegation has arrived in Pakistan. You can see JD Vance there as well. And we know the Iranians have arrived as well. So talks are taking place right now. But I thought this was very interesting and you would want to see this. This is IRGC. They're not stopping the propaganda, by the way. This is IRGC propaganda of the rescue operation where we got the F-15 EWIZO. Let's have a little look. Let's do a little reaction. All right, so the C-130s, yeah, it's obviously going to be fishtailing in the mud. That's something that C-130s do. They just drift around corners. No big deal. Got everybody running off. Looks like it rained that day. So, and the IRGC is right there waiting, right there on the high ground. And here comes the second one, flanked by two helicopters in formation. We haven't seen this formation before. Oh, okay. One hit from what looked like a spear went into the engine. That pilot pulled off a pretty sweet landing, though. That is impressive. I mean, out of this whole thing, we got to give this pilot a medal for that landing after getting hit with that exploding spear. And then more helicopters airborne. All of a sudden, 4 of them showed up. Oh, the high ground. Oh, nice. He flipped the truck with a couple bullets from an AK-47. That's a powerful AK-47, everybody. And then that helicopter took a hit, but it's just chilling, just hanging out up there. It's like, yeah, we're hit, but you know, we do this on every Tuesday. We take hits, we just sit up here and wait. Oh, one man squeezes the trigger. Oh, the bullet was an RPG. That's wild. Man, we figured it out, guys. That's the advantage of the IRGC, is having each bullet actually be
one that I pulled up. All right, so approximately America uses 19 to 20 million barrels of oil daily. And we only produce, this website says we produce It's 13.5 million barrels a day. So we're still selling anybody. Unless you're counting Venezuela's oil. And then we're still running, I mean, Jesus Christ, man. What are we doing? What are we doing?
An RPG, and it's packed into a bullet size.
That's right, Jan.
That's
Have
the
a good-
secret sauce.
have a
Maybe
good
that's what
day,
China
Jan.
brought
Thank you
in.
for stopping
Maybe
by.
that's what was on those 20 cargo planes that came into Iran. It wasn't Timu. It was RPG bullets, the new advanced RPG bullet. Oh, we got a military ID in the mud. Oh, yeah. That's how the IRGC will infiltrate the U.S. One military ID. Oh, we got a C-130 out of there. And now we've got F-22s, it looks like. Center stick on the F-22 and a canopy bow. And, well, I guess they're actually showing that U.S. jets are bombing the aircraft. Oh, nice. And they tie it into actual footage. Wow, I'm actually shocked that they said U.S. aircraft hit these that were on the ground, and they didn't say the IRGC went in and blew them up. Wow. Is that a kernel of truth coming out of the IRGC propaganda machine? IRGC, are you okay? Are you feeling okay? This is very uncharacteristic.
But over the last 12 hours, Vance arrived in Islamabad and described the discussions as potentially positive while delivering a straight shooting warning to Iran, right to their face. We're not going to let them play us, which I love because, again, Iran, the IRGC, has grifted along the world for decades. We all know that. It's pretty clear at this point. President Trump backed that up on Truth Social, and he's also blasted Iran for doing a poor, dishonorable job of allowing oil to flow through the Strait of Hormuz. And as we can see from that truth we just read a second ago, now the U.S. military is focused on opening this waterway.
This dude just tries to smooth this shit over too much.
Clearing it with or without the help of Iran. At this point, it looks like it's kind of out of their hands. And on the other side, Iran's parliamentary speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, called the talks unreasonable unless Israel stops strikes in Lebanon, and Foreign Ministry spokesperson Abbas Agarachi demanded sanctions relief while threatening strong responses from the Iranian forces that remain on full alert. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. You guys are really strong. You guys are really tough. Yeah. Again, let your enemy save face while giving them an off-ramp. This is classic art of war strategy that we're seeing play out right now, because you want your enemy to walk away from the battle with as little damage to their ego as possible. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of damage to Iran's ego, having a military operation go in and scoop up the weapons systems officer, likely kill 100 plus IRGC members.
Man.
Yeah.
That's exactly why I don't watch that dude too tough. He is too fucking much. They gonna bomb the Strait though. They gonna bomb the Strait to open it back up. It's the only thing that makes sense, right? You just take some cluster bombs and drop through there and clear their minds.
When you look at the judgments that's coming out, everything that's playing out is also pointing to the spiritual advisors of the president. And I'm gonna say it, Lord. The spiritual advisors of the president should have called for this fast. So for you guys who have been put in the position of a spiritual advisor to the throne of power, please do your job. It ain't about you. It ain't about your nonprofit. It's about you doing your job and protecting the president. Period. Point blank, period. Or else there are going to be some new advisors coming in. Because we shouldn't have gotten to this point. We shouldn't have gotten to this point where our president's mind has been captured and mind has been influenced, where he's not sleeping and his sleep gates are being attacked. You want to switch to aliens now? Because that's the last thing Lord wants.
Well, let's do it next segment. But just think about how God works. Months ago, this guy makes a battle axe, holds back, doesn't want to do it. His son says, mail it right now. It's a message to fight I read it. It's a message from God. I'm sitting, this is a message from God. It arrives literally as you come on 10 minutes before. They bring it in. The guy brings it, doesn't even know what's going on. Here's a battle axe. And Rob Dude's like, what are you talking about? This battle axe just arrived. Right as you come on. I mean, you can't make that up. And then it says it's a message from God. God said, make this as a message to you.
Yep. That's because we are the Lord's battle axe.
It even came with a note from God working through this guy. The Holy Spirit really had this guy write this.
And
overhead shot of that.
Everything God functions through men in this earth.
You've always explained that. You were waiting for God. God's working through us. Let's do it.
He's working through us. And so we are in partnership with him. So there's two things that Christians need to understand, and we need to understand. We have a kingship and we have a priesthood. Revelations 1:6 says, for he has made us kings and priests unto God. And so there's priesthood where you pray to God and you service the altar to God, where you daily saying, Lord, I love you, I bless you, I praise you, and you're communing with him. Then there's kingship in which you walk in. So kingship is your walk where you do things in this earth, where you partner with God to show people his might, his power, his glory to save people. And so, for example, men like you are functioning kingship and priesthood. So you got congressmen, senators, all these other people calling us because you have a strong kingship. President Trump has probably the strongest kingship we've ever seen from a Christian man.
But he has to exercise it. Back in 60 seconds, I'll finish up on this. And then what's going on with the announced alien invasion? Stay with us. So about 5-6 days ago, I told my producers, hey, I want to get James Williams Dark Waters on, talk about all these announcements of alien human hybrids in Congress and 4 alien species here. And all he was doing some reports on it like 8-9 years ago. So I thought, we get this guy on. He predicted it all. And then about an hour before the show, he sent
92% of people who have tingling or numbness in hands or feet are missing the warning signs of decaying nerves. And
a list of things to look at. I was busy to look at it.
Cameras
and I've opened it up to my producers right before he comes on. I go, we're talking about aliens. What's this thing about God's battle axe, and you're God's battle axe? I was like, all right, well, and we shouldn't abandon Trump. I'm like, well, I want to hear that message. I respect him. Let's do it. And then literally, I talked to the producers. A FedEx arrives right as he's here. It's very intimate.
Yes. Yes. You are the bride. Yes, absolutely. And there's so many dimensions of our God that are beautiful that people never explore him. Like the biggest problem I have with aliens is the
let's start getting into that, because I agree with your analysis of this. And I'm 10 years ago on Rogan saying it's not from a foreign space, it's interdimensional. And I knew from the document they were doing animal human hybrids. I talked to whistleblowers.
Let's see what Al Jazeera is saying. We'll just speed them up a little bit so we don't get hit. So who's willing to bet that we end up back fighting by tomorrow? I think they're just dragging us the fuck out. Did he? All right. I'd rather watch him anyway, to be honest with you. Thank you, pimp. That's good. He just seems to shoot more straight. You know what I mean? It ain't all the fluff with him. He's easier to relate to. Share screen. Nah, he's 2 minutes ago. All right. Let's pop him up. I don't know how you got a alert faster than I did. That's crazy.
Ships have rushed into the Strait of Hormuz with ongoing negotiations between Iran and the United States.
I've never heard of them, Ringo. I'll check them out.
As well as Lebanon continuing to be bombed, which could be a huge, huge part of negotiations collapsing. So we have the biggest development so far since the ceasefire was announced on Tuesday night by President Donald Trump. Before we get into it, as always, please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free, huge boost to the channel. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about United States Navy ships rushing into the Strait of Hormuz, where they had not entered during the actual war? They made the move today, rapidly moving into the strait. Let me know your thoughts and what comes next in the comments below. Hit the notification bell, all notifications on. You won't miss a thing. And then Instagram, David_Hookstead, XDHookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. My DMs are wide open. Reach out with whatever you got. Now I'm going to put this on the screen. So the news broke with Brock Ravid of Axios saying several U.S. Navy ships crossed the Strait of Hormuz on Saturday, today, April 11th. U.S. official says the move was not coordinated with Iran. It's the first time this has happened since the beginning of the war. Now, that's going to be critically important, that it was not coordinated with Iran. Stay tuned for that. Next up, we actually have a look here at the USS Destroyer, USS Michael Murphy, heading into the transit, the Strait of Hormuz. So right here, there is the strait. You can see Keshem Island, Bandar Abbas, and right there is the United States Navy ship, the USS Michael Murphy, moving up through the strait, getting shockingly close to Iranian territory, and then passing through the Strait of Hormuz in what is a major, major move. Now, the Iranians have allegedly warned that they will sink. They will attack these ships if they do not leave within 30 minutes. However, post that warning, 30 minutes, as of me filming this, 30 minutes have passed. They have not opened fire on those ships with anti-ship missiles. Why have they not shot at those ships yet? Likely because they know if they bomb those U.S. Navy ships, the war is back on and it will be more brutal than it ever has been before. But they have made the threat. They have threatened that if the ships, the U.S. Navy ships, do not leave the Strait of Hormuz, that they will then be sunk. But again, I want to stress, the 30-minute deadline is come and gone. And as of me filming this,
damn, Copper Top, that's what's up, brother.
I repeat, have not been bombed, but Iran certainly making the threat to bomb them, something we are monitoring closely. And for those of you thinking this might just be speculation about what is going on, CENTCOM releasing actual official statements about us thunder running right up through the middle of the Strait of Hormuz with heavily armed Navy ships, and the Iranians threatening to blow them up.
I'm going to tell you right now,
following
they fixing to let them ships out of
US
there.
Forces start
The U.S. Navy is fixing to guide them tankers out of there. You watch and see what I'm telling you. That's what this is about. He's going to force.
U.S.
He's
Central
going to
Command forces began setting conditions for clearing mines in the Strait of Hormuz April 11th as 2 U.S. Navy-guided missile destroyers conducted operations.
Them out of
USS
there.
Frank E. Peterson and the USS Michael Murphy transited the Strait of Hormuz and operated in the Arabian Gulf as part of a broader mission to ensure that the strait is fully clear of sea mines previously laid by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Today, we began the process of establishing a new passage, and we will share this safe passage with the maritime industry soon to encourage the free flow of commerce. The Strait of Hormuz, that was a quote from Admiral Brad Cooper. The Strait of Hormuz is an international sea passage and an essential trade corridor that supports regional and global economic prosperity. Additional U.S. forces, including underwater drones, will join the clearance effort in the coming days. So what are we doing? What is this? This is called setting the conditions. We are going to go in there and we are going to remove the mines. We are going to dare the Iranians to shoot at us, knowing that if the Iranians hit our Navy ships, what happens when you touch our boats? All hell breaks loose. And that, of course, would give the United States and would give President Donald Trump 100% clearance to go in there and use overwhelming military force.
That's what you got,
more so than we saw before. Why do we need the mines cleared? It's a lot more than just international shipping. We have Navy ships loaded up with Marines, the MEUs, the Marine Expeditionary Units, that we want to go in for potential ground operations. We're going to have to move those through the strait. Can't really do that if they're mined, or at a minimum, the risk is much higher. So we're going to go in there. We're going to find where these Iranian mines are. We're going to get rid of them. And then if President Trump orders a ground operation, those forces will move through the strait and hit whatever needs to be hit and get the mission done. Now, an update on negotiations. It says talks between the United States and Iran and Pakistan have reached a stalemate over control of the Hormuz. Two sources briefed on the negotiations say with Iran insisting it retain authority over the waterway.
Not when they
rejecting
shoot at
joint
them, they
control
don't.
Proposals. So the Iranians are saying the only way we are going to reach a ceasefire deal with you, a permanent peace, is we need complete control of the Strait of Hormuz. We will decide.
Oh, it's
what
going to
ships go
happen.
through. They will pay us
Get the
millions of
pig
dollars
ready,
per
son.
ship to go through.
Get the
United
stick
States
ready,
of America
boy.
saying that will never be tolerated. That will never be allowed. And thus, talks have hit a stalemate. And this is supposed to not even be the
Listen, all it's going to take is one of them motherfuckers to make a bad move. And we know what's going to happen. Hell have no fury.
number one factor. The number one factor is the nuke part of this equation and enriched uranium. But already we are reaching a stalemate over the Strait of Hormuz with the Iranians refusing to push back from the table and open it up, which is why we thunder run our Navy ships. If they don't want to open it up, we'll open it up for them, and they're not going to like how we do it. Next up, it says, as well as the, this is the full list of demands the Iranians want. They want their assets completely unfrozen, total control of the Strait of Hormuz, payment of war reparations, and the ceasefire to include Lebanon. We're going to get into Lebanon here in a second, but those are the demands. Ceasefire in Lebanon, all unfrozen assets. They want the Strait of Hormuz reopened, and they want the United States to pay for all the damage that has been done in Iran. Those are never going to be allowed. Maybe they get Lebanon, and again, we're going to get into that here shortly. I promise you, they will not get the Strait of Hormuz, and the United States will not be paying reparations. Furthermore, it says the Iranian delegation arrived on Friday dressed in black in mourning of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and others killed in the 6-week war. They carried shoes and bags as some of the students killed during the bombing of the girls' school next to a military compound. A Pakistani source said there were mood swings from the two sides, and the temperature went up and down during the meeting. So there's a lot of theatrics going on. The Iranians are trying to make this as dramatic as possible. We got one more update. We did cover this a little bit, but now there's more to it, and then we're going to get into the Lebanon. It says Israel assesses talks with Iran will collapse. Khan News reports, adding that Israeli demands to the United States include separating Lebanon from Iran, with an Israeli official saying any strike on Iran, upcoming strike, would be severe and comprehensive, targeting national infrastructure and energy and oil. Of course, that is what President Trump threatened to do and then did not do. Now, on Lebanon, which is a key part of the negotiation, we here put this on the screen, says Israel has struck 200 Hezbollah targets in Lebanon over the past day, according to the IDF. So they are continuing to bomb Lebanon, even though the Iranians say, if you bomb Lebanon, we are going to, the ceasefire is over and we will not negotiate. So the Iranians have made it clear, Lebanon cannot be bombed if the United States hopes to reach a peace deal, and yet it continues. You can see the targeting right there on your screen. So as of me filming this on April 11th, the United States military has done a thunder run right up the gut of Strait of Hormuz, despite Iran threatening to sink the ships. They have not fired at the time of me filming this video. That, of course, could change. Negotiations have hit a stalemate. They do not appear to be going as well as people hope. So that is this update as of this moment on April 11th. I will be back when we have more news. As always, guys, let me know what you think.
So somebody said it's near midnight here and none of the sides are showing signs of stopping. Just a sign for the amount of progress happening now. Third session of Iran-U.S. talks to be held tonight in Islamabad, Iran State TV, citing its reporter. All right, so we just followed who he was following to get his information. And I've been doing that all week. Every time I see one of them talking or using one of them's comments, I've been going in and following them so I can try to keep up with what's going on.
Dr. Abbas Araghchi, Foreign Minister of Iran. Thank you for talking to Al Jazeera. Your Excellency, there is a U.S. perspective stating that the negotiations are ongoing and that Iran has accepted the American conditions. What is your assessment of this Iranian position? How do you
This
view it?
was 10 days ago. That's old shit.
Are you looking to sell your house as is without the hassle of costly repairs or realtor fees? Then
Cats on many occasions, especially in recent history.
Negotiated in good faith, but getting to that Truth Social post we were mentioning, the U.S. president just posting in the last few moments, railing against the news media and also saying that he believes that Iran really is not in a position of strength in these negotiations. He says that they love saying that Iran is winning, referring to the media, when in fact everyone knows
No, they won't,
Iran
pimp.
are losing and losing big. Their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft apparatus is non-existent, radar is dead, their missile and drone factories have been largely obliterated, along with the missiles and drones. Look, he said this before, but he didn't say this as there were negotiations going on with his own vice president. It's almost as if the U.S. president is from Washington deliberately sabotaging any effort to strike a balance or goodwill and to see that this is a lasting and enduring ceasefire. The U.S. president, for the most part, we know, likes to inject himself into the headlines. He may be back in Washington watching all of this and realizing that he's not getting the coverage he would like, but instead his vice president, it's unclear. But what we do know is that J.D. Vance has a very difficult job, given the fact that we also know at the start up to this conflict, he was not in favor of it, and he was away from the president when the strikes first started.
Yet Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are both at these talks. They are also the men who were at the table in Geneva just 48 hours before the February strikes on Iran. How is this delegation, led by the vice president, managing the intense Iranian distrust?
Well, there is a massive deficit of trust between these two sides. And I think that's one of the reasons why this has been such a fluid situation in terms of the Islamabad talks, as they're being called. I can tell you, going into something of this magnitude, never before in all the years that I've covered this have I not had a schedule or a TikTok, as we call it, of exactly how this is going to play out. And that's because this is so fragile, there really is no way to nail it down. There is the possibility that anything put out could change in a moment's notice. So as a result, we know that this has been handled carefully and delicately. And to answer your question about J.D. Vance and his delegation, it's unusual to have people who are not seasoned diplomats, such as Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, at such a high level meeting of this nature, given the fact that there has been intense distrust for decades between the United States and Iran. The fact that J.D. Vance is leading this is meant to send a bit of reassurance, given the fact that Steve Witkoff and also Jared Kushner, excuse me, were obviously, as you mentioned, pardon me, they were negotiating when things fell apart.
Our White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett coping with the pollution live in Islamabad. Kimberly, for the moment, many thanks indeed. Let's take you live to Tehran now. Al Jazeera's Ali Hashim is there. Ali, how are Iranians' hopes around these talks in Islamabad being seen there?
Well, the fact is that the hopes in Tehran are surrounded with a lot of mistrust. This is the main issue. The past negotiations, the past experiences were bitter, whether in Oman or in Geneva, 2025, 2026, they were both followed by wars. So now they are in the middle of a war. This is a ceasefire. And they are, even though the negotiations are going to take place on the highest ever level between the United States and Iran, the vice president from the United States and Speaker of the Parliament and someone who's very, very influential within the system, still, given the fact they've gone through a lot. Actually, the Iranian people became experienced in negotiations, aside from the foreign ministry and
what up,
officials,
Grizz?
they know what to expect from the indications. Now, with the indications that
We fixing to get forced, bro.
Negotiations, there are a
You know
lot
how
of,
much guts?
skepticism.
You know how much nerves it takes to take a fucking Navy ship into enemy territory and just pull right up, just, hey, fuck you, we're here. That's what's up.
This because
Shoot
in
if
the
you
past,
want,
when there was a deal in 2015, it took both delegations, both sides, around 18 days.
They're putting
in
pressure on
Vienna.
them, is
Both
what they're
teams
saying.
were
We don't care if
based
you
in
agree to
Vienna
what
for
we
more than
we
couple
want
of
or
weeks
not. We
to
just
reach a
gonna
deal.
take
Now,
it.
with them hearing that it's just one-day talks, there's a lot of skepticism.
Ali, help us understand what's being said there in Tehran and what these talks can actually achieve. Is the delegation there, including Speaker of Parliament,
He's showing them
organized to
right now.
move
It doesn't matter.
on the red line of the Strait of Hormuz, for example?
Well, clearly the team that's that's already in Pakistan right now is a team that have a full delegation.
They kind of are, but the Navy just took a ship in the Strait of Hormuz anyway.
Multi-layers of the Iranian institutions. So there are many issues on the table.
They fix to get rid of them mines.
It's actually about the United States.
They didn't give a fuck what they had to say.
47 years old conflict.
There's what they're initially saying is you don't have no choice. We're coming to do it anyway.
Over the past weeks and even years. So this is a very big and heavy file. And that's why there is thoughts that to solve such a heavy file, this really needs time. It can't be done in one day, and it can't be done actually in 15 days. This is where the point. What are people expecting? People might be expecting an end to this war, but at the same time, in case these negotiations get to the failed, then they know that the war could restart once again.
Al Jazeera's Ali Hashim reporting
Oh,
live
it's
from the
gonna
Iranian
restart.
capital, Tehran. Many thanks indeed, Ali. Well, Iran and the US have outlined their conditions for ending the war, but there are major differences. US media leaks suggest that it includes a 30-day ceasefire, while Iran is calling for a complete halt to strikes and guarantees against future attacks. The US wants 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities to be dismantled, Tehran to never develop a nuclear weapon, and to stop the enrichment of uranium. Tehran rules out any restrictions on its enrichment program. The reopening of the Strait of Hormuz is a key US demand. Iran wants guarantees to exercise sovereignty over the water. The US also wants Iran to end support for regional non-state allies such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen. But Iran is demanding that the US and Israel stop the war on all fronts, including fighting its regional allies. Joining me now in the studio is Sultan Barakat, who's a professor of public policy with Hamad bin Khalifa University, and Abdullah Bandar El Tayyibi, who's an assistant professor in international affairs at Qatar University. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. Professor Barakat, let's start with you. For the first time since 1979, senior officials from the US and Iran are sitting together in the same room. Regardless of substance, how diplomatically significant is that moment in itself after decades of hostility?
Well, obviously, it's very significant, and it's also significant even in the last few years, and particularly because of the involvement of the vice president. I think that sends a very important signal to Iran that the US is slightly more serious than before. They've taken it out of the narrow circle of the friends and family of Trump, and it is now being presented as an institutional United States. This is the vice president coming to talk to you about these issues. I think
Iran's insistence, by the way.
Well, they have indicated at the beginning that they were not comfortable with the two, Kushner and Witkoff, because they saw them as a non-professional in their practice, but also too close to Israel. So it is at their insistence to some degree. It is maybe one of those hidden compromises that were dealt with in order to allow the talks to start. Now, it's also important from Vance's perspective, I think, with him being or still have a chance of being elected as a president without having to challenge the Constitution, and the Republicans then can still be in power. That's a big thing for him and for the Republicans. And I think that is maybe one of the main qualitative difference. The other one is the choice of Pakistan. Pakistan is extremely well connected to China. It has very strong relationship with Saudi Arabia and by extension with the rest of the Gulf states. It is trusted by the
Now, wasn't they just bombing Saudi Arabia?
Batteries, guys. I've got 3 of them here running on my power inverter for everything in my trailer. So that way, when we go to RC fields to go fly planes or anything like
to the United States. And of course, being a regional superpower already with nuclear capability that can at least guarantee the security of the talks. And if necessarily, if there are going to be implementation mechanisms, maybe they will be in a position to, again, guarantee the progress of those as well. Now, these two combined, I think, will produce a different type of talks than we had in the past. And in addition, of course, the way it's all the timing of it, the way it's happening all in public immediately after 40 days of relentless bombardment and so on, it is important. The only weak point I see, and it's probably the elephant in the room, which I think is now being kept outside the room, is Israel. That if Israel is not listening to the United States, literally, step by step, then Netanyahu can derail the whole thing. And you saw this morning, he's managed to postpone his corruption trial, yet again, using another emergency that he has himself created. And I think for them to
do what now?
Would like this to.
So Bibi Netanyahu has a fucking corruption trial that he's fighting at the same time. What in the fuck? See, I didn't know that. That's the first I'd heard of that shit. What in the actual hell is going on? That's crazy.
to be, and maybe the rest of the region, i.e. long-term peace arrangements, we have to address Israel. Israel, not just in Lebanon, Israel in Palestine, the Gaza genocide. This is what triggered this whole thing. We only, the Iranian situation has
That's
come to the
wild.
forefront in the way it has now because of the 7th of October. So if we are unable to address Israel's expansion agenda, Israel's self-declared impunity.
You know, Pimp, you're
all
not
those,
wrong,
none of this is
especially with them pulling up in that boat, man.
Many interesting points there. We could talk for hours about this. Sir, but let's bring in Abdullah. Iran insists that it comes to these talks with good intentions. Obviously, there's this issue of trust. It does not trust the United States. Can any meaningful diplomacy happen without this basic trust? I mean, how hard is Pakistan or the mediators from Pakistan going to have to work here?
Well, they have a big job actually to do with the Pakistanis. This trust is coming from both parties because at the end of the day, the Iranians, they went to diplomacy twice and they got attacked by the US and Israel. And at the same time, Israel, when it comes to the US, they've seen the Iranians not actually giving up their uranium goals. So this is the big distrust. But both parties, we see them in Islamabad now. So they believe that diplomacy could prevail and they could have a conversation. Now they're going maybe for direct talks, which is a big thing, a big step for both parties. And I think both parties relying more on trust.
Yes,
and
see,
issues of
Cosmic,
distrust
I didn't
to
know
do
that.
more in
I didn't
terms of
know
negotiation.
BB
This is a
was
big
on
thing.
trial.
So for diplomacy, if it's fall apart, then they have
No
a reason
wonder he's
to
doing
continue
that
the war.
shit.
If they win something out of diplomacy, then distrust could be translated into trust. But I think this is very difficult because both parties need to agree on certain goals, certain agenda first, because they're throwing everything on the table, and this is not helpful. We talk about the proxies, we talk about Lebanon, the Strait of Hormuz, the uranium. There are a lot of things here, and some of these things actually could include the religious legitimacy of the supreme leader when it comes to uranium, and also comes to the Iranian legitimacy of proxy wars and regional influence. So this is actually influencing the Iranian project, the Iranian expansion policy in the Middle East, and also, as Dr. Sultan said, it's Israel as well. If Israel is not being included in a way to follow the lead of the US here, then what we're going to have is a third round between all the parties. And this is going to make it more difficult because I don't think, because as we're seeing, the magnitude of the attacks is going up every single round. So the third one will be could be disastrous.
Professor, I just want to pick up on something that both of our correspondents, Kimberly and Ali, were saying about the level of diplomatic experience among the American delegation. Okay, you've got seasoned diplomats from Islamabad who are overseeing all of this. The Iranian delegation, you could argue, too, far more experienced in terms of matters like this. The Americans, you've got Kushner, you've got Witkoff, and you've got J.D. Vance, the vice president, but he's hardly a seasoned diplomat either.
Well, I mean, the American institution is quite deep, and they will be supported by a lot of experts, I think. And I witnessed their talks with the Afghans here in Doha, and they have the ability. They have no shortage of people who even speak Farsi and so on. The real issue is that Trump, over the last few years, have been hollowing out the institutions in the United States, and it is concerning that the State Department is not represented in a bigger way in these talks, which raises the question about potential experience. But I don't think at this stage this is the issue. I think they will come out of the current talks maybe with a number of working groups that are more specialists, because they need people who know what they're talking about in terms of the nuclear fuel, others who are specialists on the navigation of the Strait of Hormuz and so on. At this level, it's just really about setting them on track. And if Vance is successful in setting this off, then I'm sure they will find the right capacity to support the team.
And Abdullah, as far as the outcome today is concerned, I mean, what is the best we can hope for? Progress towards a deal, or simply agreement to keep talking?
At this point, a second round of talks. We just need a second day, I think, because this is the first day. I don't think we should expect more and a lot from these parties. Bearing in mind they have a huge distrust between them. Bearing in mind that they have a lot of experts, as been mentioned, and we remember that the Iranians, they mentioned last time that the American delegation, they had problem with the technical details when it comes to uranium. So I think that's why they have more experts now, to have more discussions about details as well. So I think the Iranians coming to the talks with a goal to discuss everything on the table, but I don't think the Americans are ready for that, because we heard reports that Pakistanis are pressuring the vice president to stay more for these talks. That's the question. I think that's the problem. The patience. Could you have a deal within days or not? Because I think the Americans want a bigger deal, a deal that could overshadow the Obama's deal in 2015. And this is, I think, the biggest concern for Trump, is to gain something out of Iran. But what about the Iranians? I think they want to have more legitimacy in terms of their control of Strait of Hormuz, their regional influence, and also to sell it to this narrative to the world and to their audience that they are going head-to-head with the US.
Abdullah Bandar Al-Ataibi, Professor Sultan Barakat, many thanks indeed to you both.
Thank you.
Sell whatever you want.
Escalated their airstrikes on southern Lebanon. At least 10 people have been killed. Multiple towns and residential areas across the Nabatea district have been targeted. Health officials say the strikes caused extensive destruction to homes, infrastructure, and civilian facilities. The attacks in the south come as Israeli and Lebanese envoys are expected to meet in Washington on Tuesday. Hezbollah has not been included in those negotiations. Let's go live now to Tyre in southern Lebanon. Al Jazeera's Abeda Hito is there. What's the latest in southern Lebanon?
Yeah, the fighting continues here. Both Hezbollah and the Israeli forces have fired on each other different times throughout the day. Even throughout the night last night, people thought that there was going to be a sort of calm here in southern Lebanon, but that wasn't the case. Today, as you mentioned, there's already been at least 10 people killed, including in those victims in the Nabatea district. They included a paramedic and an ambulance driver as well from the civil health authority. There are also reports of other deadly strikes in Mayfadoun. The situation remains quite tense here in southern Lebanon. As we speak, there's still drones flying above. There were also strikes in Khulayla here in the southwestern front in southern Lebanon. Some people who were trapped in the town of Mansouriya, also behind me, one of these coastal towns that have been on the front lines in the fight between Hezbollah and Israel, actually made it out of the town on foot and walked to Tyre. They've been stuck in the town since the massive strike that hit on Wednesday, and they were calling on support or asking for help to try and evacuate. They finally made it out today, and that gives you an idea about how fluid the situation is here. People are still reeling from those surprise attacks on Wednesday, and the situation remains quite dangerous for people who are in southern Lebanon.
Al Jazeera's Abeda Hito live in Tyre in southern Lebanon. Let's take
Surprise
you to
attack.
Ramallah in the
Shit,
occupied
they know
West
they
Bank.
attacking. That shit ain't no
The Israeli
surprise.
government's reaction. Nor Israel refusing to negotiate with Hezbollah. Do these negotiations with the Lebanese government on Tuesday, despite that, look promising?
Well, I mean, these negotiations or these meetings, let's just call them that, Adrian, are in the context of both Israel and the Lebanese government having no other choice. The Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has been pushed, pressured, instructed, as Haaretz described it, by the American president to dial down, to be willing to stop, to cease fire, or at least stop attacking Beirut, and to engage with the Lebanese government. The Lebanese government felt also pushed into a corner. They did not want Iran to be in charge of talking about a ceasefire in Lebanon, and so they broke that taboo of willing to speak directly with an Israeli representative, even though their country was still under attack. It does not look like something really substantive is going to be discussed, at least in the first meeting, because again, both parties are very far apart, especially when it comes to the notion of negotiating under fire. The Lebanese government says that that simply cannot proceed, that cannot happen. And the Israeli prime minister feels like he cannot do it because that will cost him domestically, politically. It remains to be seen. There are a few days between here and Tuesday, which is when the officials are set to meet. There are some rumors, some chatter in Israel that indicate Netanyahu may have to actually declare a suspension of hostilities for the talks to proceed.
All right, so domestically, how is this playing out for Prime Minister Netanyahu?
It's been disastrous. Netanyahu's numbers are plunging. Unlike previous conventional wisdom in Israel, wars making prime ministers more popular, gaining in the polls, especially when they claim victory. Benjamin Netanyahu is losing in the polls. And in fact, his arch nemesis, if you will, in the political right, former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, seems poised to win more seats than Netanyahu's Likud party if elections were held today. So that begins to give you a picture of just how much the Israeli Prime Minister feels like he is in a corner. It's really being caught between a rock and a hard place, because he cannot really make a convincing argument that the war with Iran yielded a strategic victory. In fact, all the commentary from the former generals and analysts are pointing to the contrary. And on the front with Lebanon, still, despite all the death and destruction the Israeli army has been able to do, that too doesn't look like a victory in the Israeli public's eye, because
damn, that's crazy,
as Netanyahu claimed, and it I
honestly didn't know that.
The relentless Israeli bombardment. There is no horizon.
So why are we dealing with him then? Why is he allowed to come to the United States and do any kind of negotiations? If he has been avoiding, justice, that's crazy.
On Israel's invasion of 10% of Lebanon, and end once and for all the coalition's talk about expanding, about taking over that part of Lebanon in exchange for peace and demarking the borders between the two countries.
Al Jazeera's Noor Odeh reporting live from Ramallah. Many thanks indeed, Noor.
That is wild, man.
Good to have you with us. This is Al Jazeera. A reminder of the latest developments in the ceasefire talks between the US and Iran. They've begun in Pakistan's capital, Islamabad. Vice President J.D. Vance is leading the US team, which includes Special Envoy Steve
That's it.
Witkoff,
There's been any
President Trump's
updates.
son-in-law Jared Kushner. The Iranian delegation includes Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. These are the highest level in-person talks between the countries since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. And Israeli forces have continued their airstrikes on southern Lebanon, killing at least 10 people, multiple times in
Israel's
residential areas across the Nabatea
Prime
district.
Minister will negotiate with Lebanon on two conditions: a peace agreement and the disembarkment of Hezbollah. That was 19 minutes ago. Oh, now they're lying to us. Iran no longer possesses any uranium enrichment facility. Okay, I thought they were saying. Pakistan's PM sheriff to take emergency trip to Saudi Arabia regarding Iran's U.S. talks. All right. I don't know why we're stuck on that one page right there, but okay.
Have been targeted. The attacks come as Israeli and Lebanese envoys are expected to meet in Washington on Tuesday. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is the chairman of the Pakistan People's Party and a former Pakistani foreign minister. He says the negotiations in Islamabad offer hope for a diplomatic end to the war.
I think not only the people of Pakistan, but the people of the entire world are looking with cautious optimism to the talks that are starting to take place in Islamabad. We've all witnessed over the course of the last 6 weeks or so the devastation of war, not only in the terms of the human cost, the lives lost in this conflict, but the economic cost, which is reverberated around the world. I think the fact that these talks are taking place is the biggest achievement so far. It's significant that the ceasefire is in effect. The bombing has stopped in Iran and across most of the Middle East, and the two major partners are now negotiating. We hope that this ceasefire now is built upon towards a more lasting and permanent resolution to this conflict.
Shahid Hussain Said is a defense and foreign policy specialist. He's also the former Pakistani Minister for Information and Culture. He joins us now live from Istanbul. Good to have you with us, sir. Pakistan is doing much more than simply hosting these talks, isn't it? But is it actively shaping the substance of these negotiations, pushing them in a particular direction? What will be going on behind the scenes?
Well, I think there's no doubt if you saw the graphics, the body language of both sides are relaxed, smiling, they feel at home, they are the bear hugs, the warm handshakes. So whether it's the Iranians or the Americans, both feel very comfortable being in Islamabad, hosted by the Pakistani leadership. And the Pakistani leadership is not just playing a formal host. I think that they're also trying to ensure that at the end of the day, because this is truly historic, and the level of leadership on both sides, which is there, top leadership of Iran and US respectively, that perhaps at the end of the day, they can engineer the mother of all deals between Iran and the US.
I hear somebody breathing.
So I think that's what it's all about. And the stakes are very high. And both sides, I think, US and Iran are keen for that, in my view.
As you say, the stakes are very high. What would Pakistani officials regard as success today? A breakthrough, a framework, or merely avoiding these talks collapsing?
I would say that the basic would be that a framework is agreed upon, some sort of, shall we say, the rules of the game for further talks on specifics, the commas and colons and the specific points. And secondly, the talks should continue at a certain high level because it's not just the prevention of war. They're moving in a direction where there can actually be a settlement between Iran and the United States, which can lead to a broader peace in the region, including not just the Gulf, but also Lebanon. So that's what the stakes are. Peace in the entire region and normalization of Iran-US relations. And perhaps we are looking at a new Middle East where there can be some semblance of security and stability between the warring sides.
But what leverage does Pakistan actually have if either side decides to walk away today?
Well, two things. Number one, then the other option is MAD, mutually assured destruction, war, which they have seen. And they've seen it's not going to work out. Secondly, Pakistan is, frankly, if I may say so, the only game in town. We are the one country today that can have that outreach, that ingress, that influence, and that confidence of both sides that we are an honest broker without any agenda of our own. We've actually been to bring the two sides together and serve as a bridge between Washington, D.C. and Tehran. And both sides have reposed that confidence in Pakistan, which is, I think, truly a great honor for my country.
You say Pakistan is an honest broker. It is, as you say, an honor for your country. But should these talks fail, how much diplomatic credibility does Pakistan lose?
No, we don't lose anything because we tried our best. And the onus is on the two sides to be together to take it forward. And I don't see a failure, frankly. I don't see that option because there's too much at stake. For example, Trump's political future is at stake. He wants to extricate himself from the Iran quagmire. And for Iran also, the stakes are very high. This is the first real opportunity since the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979 that they can really have a deal with dignity, shall we say, peace with honor and dignity with their arch rival United States. And remind you, they're speaking from a position of strength. They're speaking on a position of equality because most observers in the US say that Trump did a massive miscalculation in going to war against Iran on the advice or prodding of his buddy Netanyahu. So I think they don't want to repeat mistakes. They want old mistakes. And I think both sides know the stakes. And I'm reasonably confident that they'll be able to move forward.
It's been really good to talk to you, sir. Many thanks indeed for being with us.
My
Shahid
pleasure.
Hussein Syed. The two-week ceasefire between the US and Iran has led to optimism about the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, but traffic remains at a fraction of normal levels and hundreds of ships remain stranded. Kulsum Sharif explains.
Before the war, more than 100 ships transited the Strait of Hormuz every single day. That's more than 36,000 tankers a year. Now, 20% of global oil and natural gas pass through this critical waterway. But Iran's effective closure of it has stranded hundreds of oil tankers and other ships in the Gulf. Now, this is what we can see since Tuesday.
Now watch this shit real closely.
Marinetraffic.com that lets us track vessel movements in real time. And what we see here is very little movement around the bend, but we see many ships that are stranded on either side. Now, before the truce was announced, US President Donald Trump had said
they ain't playing it
reopening the
moving.
strait was a requirement for any deal. Now, Tehran, for its part, says the passage of ships needs to be coordinated with its military. Now, the state news agency has released this map from Iran's Revolutionary Guard. It basically outlines a new route for ships to take. To simplify, I have this image here. And Iran's Revolutionary Guard are basically saying that ships need to sail through Iranian waters right around Larak Island and pass out this way and avoid the earlier normal path for the risk of naval mines. So the new path is effectively this way. Tehran has also indicated under a new permanent deal, they would seek to charge a fee for ships transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Tehran's effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz since the start of the war has continued to roil energy markets, and supplies have further been hit with attacks on energy infrastructure right across the region.
Let's see if we can
from
see that
Saudi
warship
Arabia, the
out
world's
there.
largest crude oil exporter, to Qatar, a global leading LNG exporter.
Myanmar is among the nations hardest hit by the global energy crisis. Petrol prices there have more than doubled, driving up food costs and pushing humanitarian aid to breaking point. Even before the crisis, the UN estimated that 20% of the population faced food shortages. Jack Barton reports.
Lines stretching for hours at fuel stations across Myanmar. Even when drivers reach the pumps, there are limits.
I queued all night, and in the morning, I only got $14 worth of fuel. What can I do with $14? Nothing. Pushing from one station to another, it's pure misery.
Myanmar imports 95% of its energy needs. It began fuel rationing a week after the US and Israel attacked Iran. Since then, prices have more than doubled. Facing losses, some drivers have
I'm out
My
of
feet are
I
killing me.
couldn't say I
But
might
they
have
don't
picked a
have
little
to.
too far.
Try Dr. Scholl's 24-hour energy insoles with boosting beads that take the pressure off for all-day comfort and energy-boosting support.
Not killing me.
Dr. Scholl's, new life for your feet.
Here's what a whole home water filtration system costs, including installation. Tap below to check pricing. Affordable
Source. When the cost of goods goes up, everything else follows in a chain reaction.
This paramedic, who does not want to be identified, says the shortages do not spare those who cannot afford to wait.
There are times we can't get to a fire or pick up a patient because the tank is empty. It's a desperate feeling.
Aid organizations warn that deliveries of humanitarian assistance are now severely limited. Myanmar's government says it is exploring tax cuts on fuel imports. But with fuel scarce, food prices rising, and aid struggling to get through, Those who were already going hungry face a harder road ahead. Jack Barton, Al Jazeera.
In Haiti, people are protesting against rising fuel prices. Angry drivers and their passengers in the capital set fire to tires and blocked roads. Haiti's government has increased fuel
That's
prices
right.
by around a third due to the disruption.
Just fucking burn tires in the middle of the road. That's going to make gas prices come down.
In global energy supplies caused by the war in Iran, Haiti is already grappling with a humanitarian crisis. Armed gangs control most of the capital, and food supplies are low.
Today, look at what the police are doing to us. While we are demanding our rights, gas prices are rising. The police are using tear gas against us. Unfortunately, the police are aware that it is a crime against us.
It is imperative that we fight against the oil price rise and to improve the living conditions of the Haitian people, because there are too many people on a very terrible journey to hell.
Let's take a look at some of the other day's news now. A temporary ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine has come into effect this hour. The truce was agreed by Presidents Putin and Zelensky to mark Orthodox Easter. The two countries fired drones at each other earlier on Saturday. Russian strikes on the Iranian city of Odessa killed 2 people and caused extensive damage to civilian infrastructure. The ceasefire is set to last until the end of Sunday. The war is now into its 5th year. An Israeli drone strike has killed 6 people in central Gaza, including a journalist from Al-Aqsa TV. Several others have been wounded in the attack. Earlier this week, an Israeli strike killed Al Jazeera journalist Mohammed Wishart. Israeli attacks have killed at least 738 people since ceasefire came into effect in October. Well, nearly 6 months into that so-called ceasefire, hundreds of thousands of displaced families are living in tents and makeshift shelters. The UN is bringing in fiberglass sheds as a temporary alternative. But it says
Fiberglass
nowhere near
sheds.
enough of them being allowed into the Strip, and families say they're not a lasting solution. Al Jazeera's Ibrahim Al-Khalili reports from Gaza City.
Better than a tent.
In Gaza, rows of tents stretch across open land, home to families who have lost everything. Some families are moving into temporary housing units. They are made of fiberglass and are stronger than the tents, but is still unable to provide real protection.
This house is better than the tarpaulin tents we used to live in. Those would collapse on my children with the slightest wind. Our bedding and clothes would get soaked. Even now, there's still no drainage system for rainwater.
The United Nations says at least 1.3 million Palestinians are still displaced, living in nearly 1,000 makeshift camps across the Strip. It's the result of more than 2 years of relentless Israeli bombardment. 81% of all structures have been damaged or completely destroyed. Among them, more than 320,000 houses. For people here, the promised rebuilding has yet to materialize.
We are 6 months into the ceasefire. We were told reconstruction would begin, but here we are. The situation is still the same. It's actually getting worse. The tents don't protect us, the buildings are still destroyed, and there are no solutions. Even the school students don't have proper buildings.
The UN says the gap between what is needed and what is being delivered is vast.
At this stage, we are bringing in the very
Yeah.
bare minimum. We are prioritizing families according to their needs, but everybody needs and wants a proper shelter solution. We're looking at it. We are preparing to scale up now at the provision of RHUs, relief housing units.
For now, these shelters remain a temporary answer to a much deeper crisis.
Hell, ain't nothing wrong with that.
Say fiberglass tents are sturdier, but they are still a temporary fix, and the shelters
Slap a
all
couple
partially
solar
are
panels on that bad boy.
as part of the second phase of the ceasefire that took effect in October. Rahim Al-Khalili, Al Jazeera, Gaza City, Palestine.
7 years ago, a popular uprising erupted in Sudan, ending the 30-year rule of Omar al-Bashir. Fueled by an economic crisis, the protests brought hope for a new era. But a powerful struggle later derailed that dream. In April 2019, rivals Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and Rapid Support Forces Commander Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo united to remove Omar al-Bashir. 4 months later, they agreed to a power-sharing deal with civilian leaders, appointing Abdullah
Yeah,
Hamdok
well, the
as Prime
difference
Minister.
between the
In late
canal
2021
is,
was
though,
the deadline to hand leadership to
Copper Top is somebody has to run the canal, right? Because you got locks, you got to go through, pumps got to be turned on, gates got to be open. There's a little difference. The Strait of Hormuz is just a passage. I don't think they'll allow them to collect a fee, and they may, you know, who knows? But $1 a barrel, you're talking $2 million every time a shipment. You can't afford that, right? Because let's face it, that cost is going to get passed on to us.
Civilians approached. The military and RSF leaders joined forces to overthrow Hamdok to maintain control of Sudan's lucrative gold mines and state industries.
$100,000 a ship, I could see, but $2 million, no, they ain't gonna go for that.
It turned into a battle between them for control of Sudan and ultimately a civil war. Well, when fighting between the army and the Rapid Support Forces began in 2023, many of those who once protested against the military rule have now joined the fighting. Al Jazeera's Heber Morgan reports from Khartoum.
For nearly 3 years, Mohammed Abdul Rahim and Adam have volunteered to fight for the Sudanese army against the Rapid Support Forces. But their journey didn't start with the civil war in 2023. 7 years ago, they were protesters demanding the removal of President Omar al-Bashir. They wanted the military to hand over power to a civilian government. He was removed in April 2019. But by 2021, the military had sidelined civilian leadership, triggering more demonstrations. Now, they and other former demonstrators are fighting with the army they once protested.
I joined the army because I have the right to self-defense, regardless of my political affiliation and my view of political entities. And our issue during the revolution with the army wasn't about their existence. We wanted them to return to their barracks. My stance since 2019 regarding the RSF is that it should be disbanded.
I'm a civilian, but the war going on in the country made me side with the army. The country needs us, and we need it. But we can't bring people from outside the country to fight for us. So whatever the differences we have with the army, we side
That's
with
why I
it to end the
say
aggression.
$2 million,
Then we go
the
back to
ship
our
is not going to
differences
get
and
it.
our demands.
They're not going to let them do that.
Sudan's civil war started when the RSF refused to integrate into the military. Millions have been displaced and hundreds of thousands killed. The streets now carry the marks of the war, but signs of the revolution remain. Portraits of those killed during protests against Bashir and slogans from the revolution can be found on many walls here in the capital. The people who demonstrated on these streets, once unified in their call for a civilian government, are divided during the current conflict. While some back the army, others support the Rapid Support Forces. And others have opted to stay away from the battlefield, but not the war. Aden is a member of the emergency room responders. These volunteers once organized pro-democracy protests. Now, they help those affected by conflict.
Here we distribute medicines for those with mental health and chronic issues for free, and we help doctors during operations. Even if the war
That's how it
ends,
is
we'll
out
continue
here.
because this way we're fulfilling our own demands.
For now, those who once protested are focusing on the conflict, waiting for it to end so they can go back to working for a democratic Sudan. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Khartoum.
Voters in Benin head to the polls on Sunday to choose a new president. The election's taking place as security concerns grow. Once seen as one of West Africa's most stable democracies, the poll follows a failed coup attempt in December, and that's raised questions about Benin's political direction. Ahmed Idris reports from Cotonou.
In the port city of Cotonou, these journalists planned their coverage of Benin's presidential election. The editor wants to focus on what matters most to voters.
The fundamental concern is bread and peace. That is first what concerns the Beninese.
Bread because of a growing cost of living crisis, and peace because of attacks by armed groups in the north. But Benin's political landscape has also narrowed since President Patrice Talon first came to power in 2016. There were 33 candidates in that year's race, but in this election, only 2. That's after a recent law effectively locked out most opposition parties. Finance Minister Romuald Wadanyi is widely seen as Talon's anointed successor. He's campaigning on a platform of stability and continued reform.
I believe he knows Beninese expects of him to build on the achievements of the current government that improve the living conditions of the people.
Benin's lone opposition challenger in the race is Paul Hinkwe, and he's trying hard to shake perceptions he's little more than a symbolic contender in a tightly controlled contest.
The government rolls out numbers, yet fails to build schools, or you build hospitals that only certain class can access. That's not progress. You need universal access to education and healthcare.
Beyond campaign rhetoric, it's everyday concerns that's shaping people's opinions about the vote.
President Patrice Talon's urban renewal program has transformed the financial capital Cotonou. But for many
All
Beninese,
right.
this election is
They
about
ain't
more
talking about
infrastructure
shit
and
now.
impressive economic.
President J.D. Vance is leading the delegation from Washington. He's accompanied by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. And Lebanon says that attacks must stop before any ceasefire talks with Israel can begin. Hezbollah has rejected a return to earlier arrangements. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes have intensified across southern Lebanon, with at least 10 people reported killed. Let's go live now to Islamabad. Our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett, is there for us. Kimberly, give us a sense of the tones that this American delegation was trying to set going into these talks.
Well, they're trying to set a different tone than the one that keeps being amplified by the U.S. President Donald Trump back in Washington. What I can tell you, back in the United States, to be precise, what I can tell you is that he is continuing to try and inject himself into these discussions with his social media posts. They're nothing that he hasn't said before, but just it is an example of how the U.S. President tries to remain relevant when he feels that others are getting more attention. In this case, that would be his delegation engaging in some of the most significant talks since 1979 with Iranian counterparts. So what we're seeing is the U.S. President tweeting or truthing, in this case, on his Truth Social platform, railing at the U.S. media, calling it the fake news media, but again, underscoring what he believes is significant, and that is that the United States has completely destroyed Iran's military, including their entire Navy and Air Force and everything else. Their leadership is dead. The Strait of Hormuz will soon be open, and the empty ships are rushing to the United States to load up. What he means there is that he is once again trying to not only tell the American public, but also the world that this was worth it, that this was something that was accomplished. But we know, in fact, that things are farther apart than they were before the conflict, given the fact that the goal had been to try and make sure that Iran never gained a nuclear weapon. But now, in addition, the other primary goal of the United States is to ensure that the Strait of Hormuz is open, something that was open prior to this conflict. So,
Well,
the
of
US
course it
president
was open
is, if you
prior
will,
to this
kind of weighing
conflict.
down on the atmosphere here, which is already very tense in terms of anticipation and the timeline. But as well, we should point out that things have been progressing well. And given the fact that it's being led by J.D. Vance, the vice president, who arrived here very relaxed, it is a challenge for those who are in the room negotiating with the U.S. president, kilometers upon kilometers away, trying to inject himself into the process.
Yeah, and along with the Vice President, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are both at those talks. They're also the men who were at the table in Geneva just 48 hours before the February strikes on Iran. How is that delegation managing Iran's intense distrust of them?
Well, I can tell you, first of all, how Pakistan is handling it, and that is with heavy security. Just trying to get around Islamabad is challenging. The whole city is on lockdown. The armed forces are out, the police are out, and they all have heavy weaponry that are strapped alongside them. So it is amidst this that the delegation is working behind those security perimeters in order to try and accomplish something. But as you point out, there was a deal to limit Iran's nuclear program. It had been struck by Oman, and it said the deal was within reach only for the United States to begin firing its missiles at Iran and breaking this up until now we have more than a month of conflict. And now it's up to not only J.D. Vance, but as you point out, the Middle East envoys, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, to try and end this. But the problem is that two of the people that were instrumental in it starting
Appreciate
are
you
in
stopping
that
by,
same room,
smart
and
man.
That's why this is being led by J.D. Vance. But again, there is a trust deficit that exists between these two sides, one that is ever more challenging to close, given the fact that Iran is skeptical about the good-heartedness nature of both Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, not to mention their strong ties to Israel, which are also of grave concern.
Our White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett reporting live from Islamabad. Many thanks, Kimberly. The two-week ceasefire between the US and Iran has led to optimism about the Strait of Hormuz and that it may reopen soon, but traffic remains at a fraction of normal levels and hundreds of ships are still stranded. Kulsum Sharif reports.
Before the war, more than 100 ships transited the Strait of Hormuz every single day. That's more than 36,000 tankers a year. Now, 20% of global oil and natural gas pass through this critical waterway. But Iran's effective closure of it has stranded hundreds of oil tankers and other ships in the Gulf. Now, this is what we can see since Tuesday, the day of the ceasefire. And this image is from marinetraffic.com that lets us track vessel movements in real time. And what we see here is very little movement around the bend, but we see many ships that are stranded
you
on
done
either
showed us
side.
this
Now,
already.
before the truce was announced, U.S.
growth. Many people here say they want to see greater political and economic inclusion and answers to lingering questions about December's failed coup.
Many say they will still turn out to vote, but some are less convinced.
They keep asking for our votes, but there's been no change in my life.
Well, they're saying that China's economy is collapsing right now. So I don't see how they can keep pushing that shit, which is a good thing. I mean, maybe there'll be some good come out of this. I think there was a lot of things going on with that digital dollar. A lot of people didn't realize copper top because they don't think it affects them. But I promise you, it's most certainly going to affect you. Yard sales, anything like that. You know what I mean? Imagine not being able to go to a local yard sale and not be able to purchase something without the government getting their taxes off of something that you buy that you already paid taxes on. All right, y'all. I'm probably fixing to take me a break for a little while too. If anything dramatic happens, I may come back on. We'll holler at y'all later. Appreciate y'all stopping by and hanging out with me this morning, this evening, this afternoon, whatever time it is. We will holler. Peace. Y'all be safe out there.